Could we rise for the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll read my little quiet note. The board requests that all audience members be respectful to others by not whispering or having conversations during the meeting. This will allow everyone, including our minute taker, to hear what is being discussed by the board and other participants. Sound travels easily with the acoustics in this room, and any background noise makes it more difficult to hear. We're going to open our meeting we actually have two public hearings. I'll read the first one, then Alicia has the second one. The first public hearing is going to be in accordance with RSA 31:95-B to accept the opioid litigation settlement fund distribution in the amount of $11,856.22. Funds to be used in accordance with RSA 126-A:86. Are you going to speak? Go.
You'll have to wait because you need a quorum to vote on it.
Okay, so we can't do that.
So,
All right, so B, what would be?
B, you would need a quorum to vote on that too.
Okay, so get that.
At
Thought it sounded really.
least to open them, so they're open.
All right.
We'll come back to that after.
All right, and then the B part of that public hearing is to accept amendments to the town solid waste management ordinance, originally adopted in March of 2005 and amended in December of 2022. So we will go back to all of that, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to start with the New Hampshire DOT meeting. This is in regards to the 140 being Depot Street and Main Street intersection project. If you guys would like to start, and then if John has any questions once he's here, we'll move on. We'll try to answer his questions.
You can pull another chair up.
So
Just grab a chair from the audience and pull chairs up.
No. Good
Good morning,
morning.
guys.
Morning. Well, thank you for having us. Do we have a mouse?
Yes, I'm your mouse.
Oh, excellent.
So you just tell me when to advance your slides. And again, this is very finicky, so it won't be. And you can see.
We probably go straight to the agenda.
There you go.
Well, I'll kill a little dead air here. So my name is Jason.
Good day.
Yeah, that's okay. It must be the weather. It's the snow. My name is Jason Add. I'm the New Hampshire DOT project manager for this project, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you this morning. We have Hans Weber, our highway design lead, and we have Dylan Schmidt, our environmental lead. And I know we were supposed to be here about a month ago, and appreciate the extra time. We have both team members are really going to walk through what they have been doing over the last few months as we've been collecting the information. And I'm hoping that the story that you hear today is a good one for you, and at least we can explain really all of the nuances within the design, and then specifically some of the regulations that we have to follow, which is why it does take us a little bit. So we will, I do want to talk a little bit about project information, then I'm going to let Hans discuss the alternatives analysis and the work that we had done for the traffic analysis. Dylan will speak to the environmental evaluation, which it has, because we have federal dollars, we have to follow federal regulations in order to meet all of that in order for us to go to the next step. Got some recommendations for you. Ultimately, beyond just the project review, I'd love the opportunity to at least hear from you, because we've got a couple choices. If there's a choice that you really like, if we need to go back to the drawing board, and then what those next steps are. If you really like what you hear, I'd love to have a letter of support from the board and the town, and then decide, how do we discuss this with the community at a later date? Is it another public informational meeting like we did last year about this time? Or, is it a couple additional follow-ups depending on what you hear today? So we go to the next slide. We have a couple of additional team members that are sitting behind me. We have Lyra, who supports Hans, works on Hans' team from a traffic and highway. And then we also have John Evans, who is the environmental section, project management section chief. So he kind of sees the overarch. So if there's anything that the three of us can't answer, we have the two of them as well to give us a little bit of backup. We can go to the next slide. You're all very familiar with the project location. We have Depot Street, Main Street. It is approximately 1,800 feet west. Some of this is really helpful as we go through and provide the documentation. The most important thing for us and this step that we're currently in is establishing what the purpose of the project is and the need. And the purpose generally comes from the 10-year plan application that was submitted by the town through Lakes Region Planning Commission, and then is approved in the 10-year plan. That has sort of all been done. The purpose of the project is to improve the intersection. Need, initially came through the 10-year plan as well, because we need that backup in order to have the project qualify, was really focused on the congestion. The community is seeing levels of congestion, which we refer to in the traffic world as a level of service F. F is not good, F is failure. And so you're seeing that specifically in the afternoon hours. The other piece of it is we've tied in, as we did here through some of the public outreach. There are some safety concerns with pedestrians moving through Main Street and the intersection. Certainly identified because of the unique or the lack of control on one of the legs, that there are some failure to yield. And we do see crashes, and those are reported. So really helpful, not only through the DMV and the database, but I know that our safety section had reached out to the police department as well to support that. So those are really the two metrics that we're going to weigh all of the project impacts against. And the last slide that I will speak to, or a couple more, is the next one. Again, project funding is really important. Have updated this slide from the last time that you saw it, because we are working through the draft 10-year plan, which hopefully will be approved next year. I think the most important thing, none of the numbers have really changed, because they're the current dollars. We have about 500,000 that was programmed in the original 10-year plan for construction. I think the most important thing is there's a lot of misinformation about the 10-year plan on some of the projects. We did have to make some cuts, but this project has not been removed from the 10-year plan, and we haven't had any funds removed from the 10-year plan as well. So we're still progressing as we move forward. So we could go to the last slide. Kind of hit on a little bit about this, but this is the Department of Transportation. It can be slow when you're outside of our business, but we certainly have a lot of work to do, and it takes time leading up to the public informational meeting. In the meeting that we discussed with you last year, we were doing a lot of the survey, the utility mapping, understanding what we needed to do from at least the crash types and at least the severity of the crashes. Certainly pulled the initial traffic volumes, which there were some questions about when we spoke to you initially. We did our initial natural and cultural resource mapping just to kind of get a sense. This is a very historic area. And that's kind of where we started. Certainly public outreach is a really important component of being able to have projects approved onto the next step. And then Hans's team works with the roadway design, the criteria, and a lot of the stuff that you're going to see today. And then obviously works up, how much that's going to cost. And then Dylan's team is the one that's really pulling together based on those impacts that he sees from Hans's team. Like how does that affect the natural resources, which I think he's going to show that we don't have as many concerns from that, but certainly the historic district and the downtown we're very concerned with. So Dylan's going to be able to speak a little bit about that. So with that,
Can I just ask one question?
Absolutely.
And maybe you guys are going to cover this. I know that at one of our last meetings, we discussed the traffic volume.
Yes.
And you were gonna go back out, I think you were gonna go back out and do it a little further back down the road. Did you do that?
We
Yeah,
did,
Okay.
we did.
I'll be speaking to that in just a moment.
No problem, okay.
No, I think that's great. I think that was a lot of the crux. We did hear that last year, not only for us to go back out and collect those volumes, because a lot of the information that we had was coming out of the pandemic, right? And traffic patterns really hadn't adjusted over the last couple of years. We certainly have seen that at the beginning of the year. We had our Bureau of Traffic go out and collect those additional traffic volumes, really changed the picture for us. You know, and I think on top of that, what we heard is, you know, we have bypass traffic from around 140 or at Depot Street and Main Street, because as soon as it gets congested, it starts to look for the local roadways. So we pulled that information in, and I think they did a really great job, and I'd love them to be able to tell the story. And certainly one of the things that we heard is, I would say probably a good percentage, people wanted us to reevaluate the traffic signal. And so with that new information from the Bureau of Traffic, Hans' team is able to look at, you know, does it meet signal warrants in the future years? So I'm going to stop there because I really don't want to steal all of Hans' thunder, but I think it's a great point. That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's certainly what we'd like to spend some time speaking to today. So Jason, thank you for setting the stage. The next couple slides, we can probably skip through. You guys, I'm sure, are very familiar with your own downtown. But just as a reminder, we've got the existing conditions out there. 30 miles per hour is the posted speed on 140. Lanes are about 11 feet wide. Shoulders very variable in width. You know, some from the white line to the curb face varies depending on which side of the road you are on. I know on the north side of the intersection, in front of the like the small engine repair store there, you've got that 8 to 10 foot shoulder, kind of variable, not signed for no parking, but it is a wide shoulder to help facilitate those left turning movements from larger vehicles. This is our understanding of the configuration. Main Street to the south has that same posted speed, similar lane width, 0 to 2 foot shoulders, and that's primarily because of the on-street parking that is facilitated in that area. Our traffic volumes listed here are technically the original ones, so that 7,200 AADT hopefully is still largely correct, because that would be the average annual daily traffic as opposed to the specific turning movements during those peak hours. And I think that's really where some of the frustration was when we spoke with you guys about a year ago, is it seemed like we were underrepresenting what the intersection experiences for congestion and traffic volumes during those peak AM and PM hours. But so we've got that 7,200 and then 3,400 on the Main Street leg. So showing that the 140 movement through town is the predominant route, and then Main Street sees correspondingly less traffic. Go to the next slide. Oh, you're already there. Perfect. Jason spoke to it already. The purpose and need for this project is addressing the congestion and safety issues that are present out there. So Depot Street, the stop controlled leg, the west leg of the intersection today, as you come up the hill from the Tioga River and wait at that stop bar, it can be difficult to find opportunities to safely enter traffic. Sight distance is restricted because of some of the buildings out there that sit pretty close to the road, and the placement of the stop bar relative to the pedestrian crossing at that location. It does require you to creep out a little further, and even then you are reliant on people's use of signals or your turning signals in order to make sure that you are not going to be in conflict with them as you enter the intersection. Likely because of some of these issues, we have the 28 reported crashes in the 10-year history, which isn't a huge amount of crashes, but they all seem very correctable by changing the intersection control from what's out there today. So next slide, please. As a reminder of where we stood a year ago, we presented 5 different concepts that were evaluated. So we won't spend too much time talking about the past here, but they are shown up on screen and in the presentation handout that we have here in the room today. So we looked at adding a southbound right turn lane on New Hampshire 140. So saying the predominant movement of New Hampshire 140 is the traffic that is continuing west on 140. So if we separated them out with that additional offset to help with sightline issues and just to, I guess, make it more conspicuous where vehicles are trying to go, even if they didn't want to use their blinkers, there would be a theoretical safety benefit there. However, it didn't seem like it helped all that much with the overall operations of the intersection, and it starts to incur relatively extensive right-of-way and utility impacts for that benefit. So for those reasons, it's sort of fallen off the docket. The single lane roundabout, I know we presented, operationally would work really well. It's great from the safety standpoint. I think we can all agree the footprint of impact is probably a little big to stomach for the town of Belmont. So what we heard last year is that we didn't want to advance the signal lane roundabout for further consideration. The signals, when we presented them a year ago.
This is the Department of Safety. They're coming to see you.
Is that right? The signals that we evaluated a year ago, at the time, we spoke about how based on the traffic volumes that we had collected in that 2021 timeframe did not meet signal warrants. So we used something called the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices from a federal standpoint in order to guide our hand and whether signals are a practical, proposition for a particular intersection. We didn't meet the warrants at the time. Our Bureau of Traffic was not in support of the signalization alternative, and where it had additional cost and some impacts, particularly to utilities, we were not necessarily in favor of it a year ago. But again, we heard that the traffic volumes were not what you guys feel that they are. And sure enough, when we collected the data and got that back earlier this year, it did change the equation. So warrants are now satisfied, warrants 1, 2, and conditionally 3. I won't get into the details of what that means, but 1 and 2 are the ones that we weigh more heavily. So the 8th highest hour, 4th highest hour are now supported. Some for the opening year and certainly all for the design year. So that changes our Bureau of Traffic's opinion that a signal is a good approach or could be a good approach to this location. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Always stop control is exactly as it sounds. It's just throwing up additional paint lines and stop signs in order to change the control of the intersection. So rather than just be stop controlled on the Depot and Nelson Court approaches, you would see the additional stopping on the Main Street leg, north and south. Operationally, we think it would process traffic better, but it would do a shifting of the queues, where most of the congestion is experienced, or near all of the congestion is experienced on Depot Street today. You would now experience some congestion during those peak hours on those other approaches because they now have to come to a stop where they previously were allowed to pass through uninhibited. But it really does a pretty good job of sharing the traffic. And I think during those off-peak hours especially, it really helps to reduce speeds and increase safety along Main Street because everyone is asked to come to that stop, and their sight distance only needs to be to the adjacent stop bar at this rate. So where today you have to make sure you can see far enough up or down Main Street in order to find that safe opportunity to enter traffic. Now you only need to see, is there someone waiting at that adjacent stop bar that I need to trade turns with as we cycle through the intersection. The always stop control does have some opportunity because of the more limited scope and budget to maybe expand a little bit further north on Main Street. We talked about maybe converting the 3-way stop control at the Gilmanton Road intersection to the north. They can convert that also to an all-way stop. So increasing the scope of the project, recognizing that these signs themselves are somewhat small, somewhat modest of an improvement along your Main Street. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment here. The last option that we presented in earnest a year ago was the realignment, where that would change the stop control to the southern Main Street leg while making 140 a more true through movement. So knowing that the traffic volumes along 140 are the larger volume, that 7,200 versus the 3,200, it would improve the level of service of the intersection at the expense of now Main Street becomes your delay leg. Not as bad a delay as what Depot Street experiences today, but there are trade-offs there. I think that the bigger issues that we'll speak to momentarily is the realignment would involve some changes to the horizontal and vertical grades out there, shifting the intersection to the northwest and requiring the full acquisition of that parcel that is a mixed business and residential housing today. So it's kind of a large footprint of impact. The utilities, particularly private entities, but also town-owned water and sewer would be more heavily impacted by the realignment alternative. But from a level of service standpoint, it really would push traffic through the area more effectively. And we also would be improving the sight distances. So you'd see that safety benefit as a result. So next slide, please. We can probably skip through the next one a little bit. It just reminds you, we were here a year ago. We talked about all these alternatives and what our action items were: collect additional data to improve our understanding of the network, advance the always stop and realignment alternative, and also reconsider the traffic signal alternative once we had new numbers in hand. And then just that reminder that a broader study of the the Route 140 corridor is not within the scope of this project. The 10-year plan scope is limited really to the 140 intersection, but we are trying to broaden our scope a little bit to understand what we heard as concerns from the community about how the other local roads are affected in the network. So with that, we'll skip 2 slides ahead to our travel time comparison for the existing condition. So we heard that some traffic will divert from 140 even further west than Dearborn Street, but we did have to kind of constrain our scope. So we collected data all the way up to Hurricane Road at the top there and CV Road. We went out to Dearborn Street further west from 140. It's off the screen here, so to speak, but we did collect south to Concord Street or Concord Road. And then the other intersections surrounding Monument Square and Johnson. I'm sorry, not Johnson, just Monument Square and Church Street. So our goal was to confirm that the traffic modeling is corroborated with what we heard from you guys here in the town, that during those peak congested periods, it seems likely that a local road alternative would start to attract people, sometimes just by local knowledge and other times because of Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, all that kind of stuff. People are pushed onto local roads when the algorithms tell them it's the right thing to do. And with that additional traffic data in hand, we were able to prove that. So the graphic shown here is that 2027 PM peak eastbound. So this is intending to reflect what happens out there today, approximately 2027, obviously being 2 years out from now. But we see that the Dearborn Street alternative, if you are eastbound on 140, trying to get to 106, you get a travel time of 104 seconds. Compared with if you stayed on 140 and waited at the stop bar during those peak PM congested periods, we're tracking that at more like 133 seconds. So with a near 30-second difference, it's no surprise that people start to take Dearborn as the alternative. And that brings additional load onto the local road network and probably traveling at higher speeds where they're not locals who are waiting to turn into their houses. They are just trying to get through the area as fast as possible. So our numbers really prove what you guys told us was happening. So perfect. So we took that same data then, and we wanted to pass it back through the alternatives that we were continuing the studies. Was the always stop control, the realignment, and then bring the signals back onto the table. That's what the next few slides are going to show us. So Alicia, if we can step to the always stop 1A. So I won't focus as much about the intersection improvement itself. The important thing here is this is considering the always stop control implementation at the prior intersections of Depot Street, 140 Main Street. And this is also already considering the always stop control at the northern intersection with Church Street and Belmont Road. So it is considering new stops at both those locations. So when you start to see improved operations for Depot Street because of the always stop control at that primary intersection, we do predict that you would reduce that peak PM travel time down to 115 seconds. So about a 15 to 17 second improvement over what's happening today, but it still doesn't beat out Dearborn Street as a probably faster alternative. There's a human psychology standpoint that, it's really a qualitative assessment as opposed to quantitative, but people will process through the always stop control more efficiently and kind of routinely compared to what they experience today. So if people are just going off of gut instinct, I suspect the always stop control's ability to process traffic will keep people on 140 because they won't be waiting in a long line of cars quite like they do today. That doesn't seem like it's moving at all at times. So that is one thing I would offer. We get all the other benefits that are kind of listed there on the presentation slides for pros and cons. So it's low cost to implement, it's low right-of-way impacts, very low to minimal, very low to no utility impacts. We would, by introducing a new stop control on Main Street, we would expect forwarder speeds to slow down because it's requiring people to come to a stop through that intersection rather than race right through uncontrolled as it is today on the Main Street approaches at least. But we've got the cons there that you are now starting to experience some delay, or you've shifted some delay in queuing to the Main Street legs that are currently free to pass uncontested. And as I already mentioned, the travel time is still not less than the Dearborn alternative. So one thing we wanted to throw out there, kind of really taking into consideration the full network, would be the next slide. I don't know if you've already moved over to that one, Alicia, but it's our always stop 1B. So just pointing out, nothing different along 140. This is still the state project was concerned with the always stop control implementation along 140 as a state route, but we wanted to take a look at what would happen if the town explored additional stop control on the local road network in order to try and reduce speeds and maybe deter traffic from taking Dearborn Street as an alternative route. So this graphic shown here involves always stop control at the Johnson Road intersection, so about halfway along the Dearborn cut through. And then additionally exploring always stop control implementation at the intersection of Church Street and Monument Square. And so by adding delay at those locations, you would reduce speeds on the local roads, and we predict it would bring the travel time up to 119 seconds during those peak PM hours. So it starts to favor numerically the New Hampshire 140 mainline movement. So we feel that starts to really build the case that traffic would be pulled back onto the main line and discouraged from traveling on the local road network. But I do want to be clear, the implementation of there's always stop controls on the local road network outside of what our state budget is allowed to do. So that's just food for thought, something we wanted to offer you guys. All right, so then the realignment became the other larger alternative I know we talked about a year ago. And that one starts to really make a difference, I would say, because you are no longer controlling or are requiring the stop for the Depot Street leg. Sorry, if you go back one slide, Alicia.
You said the realignment?
Yeah, I think it's the one just above this.
No, it's after, but that's okay.
Oh, yes, wait. Huh. Okay, so the realignment.
No, you're good.
So the realignment is everything that we showed you a year ago. It's changing the 140 movement to be the through condition and now requiring the stop on Main Street. But if we're considering just the travel times on 140 as the majority of traffic passes east-west through the area, when you no longer have any delay expected on the 140 leg, we do see that travel time reduced to 84.4 seconds. So when you compare that with even the existing conditions for Dearborn Street, that anticipated travel time of 104 seconds, that's a 20-second difference. So I think it really tells the story that by improving 140, you really pull traffic back where it's supposed to be. But we have all those cons that I started to talk about earlier. The realignment alternative, pretty substantial, cost, construction disruption, utility impacts, right-of-way implications. I think it's a harder pill to swallow despite the improvement that it would offer. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, I think, through Dylan's environmental slides.
Did you ever, we talked about the school buses.
Touching base with them?
Yeah,
So didn't reach out to them, but happy to talk about, I guess, the operations through the area. So the concern that we heard a year ago was that by introducing the stop control
right.
for that realignment, yes, you would start to experience queuing there, which during school hours, during emergency response events, they are now not able to get through the intersection the way that they do today, where they are able to just blaze right ahead. So I think that remains a con associated with that realignment. Unless they picked another path through town, you would now be experiencing those congestion issues the same as all other commuters through the area. So it's
I know
definitely
we talked about possibly them changing route and going out to 106, but then you still got to get north and south on 106, and that's
right.
that's
So
crazy.
I think it's a good comment, probably against the realignment, but just, I guess, to get out in front of it, and Dylan's going to speak to it. The realignment, for other reasons that have come up over the last year, is kind of fallen off of what we can support for the project. So we did the evaluation. We wanted to, commit to that and show you, how it would work from an operations standpoint. But we know there's some reasons against it, and now we feel we can't support it based on the footprint of impact. So again, we'll speak to that more in just a moment. Last time for the last slide for the travel time comparison. So the traffic signals, where the warrants are now met, those were brought back onto the table. And we do see that traffic signals work pretty well. We explored it in two different configurations. Once, which is just employing mast arms and signal control with the existing footprint. So the single lane shared use approach. We also did explore that southbound right turn lane, but for all the same reasons as the offset right turn lane previously explored, it starts to have disproportionate impacts for the benefit because the signals, just in its current configuration, seem to process traffic really well. Jason spoke earlier about the level of service. So that's a little bit like a report card. A's are good, F's are bad, and our signals really come across with levels of service A and B, which is pretty good. We would see a lot of benefit from that implementation. And now, with that in mind, the traffic signal, it does reduce compared to the realignment, we've got a 96-second travel time, so still better than Dearborn in its current configuration. But there is, again, that driver psychology component, the qualitative assessment. When people know that they will be given opportunity to platoon through an intersection, it might make 140 a more attractive option where even the always stop control, you are still waiting your turn. The signals will guarantee you your turn when that green comes around. So we know it does work pretty effectively to process the traffic through the area. It does have some utility impacts that will need to be considered, some varied utilities through the area. Not as concerned about the town utilities because the water and sewer seems to be on the other side of the road, but there is CCI has some varied telephone that would be somewhat heavily impacted depending on our mast arm location. So we need to continue to refine where those mast arms would go and what that signal layout would look like. But anything is possible with enough time. Now, to speak on the safety, since that is one of the purpose and need elements of the project, you'll notice the pros and cons both sort of speak to safety. I think there's an increase in safety for the intersection overall because you are removing some of those sight distance issues that exist today where people are told when they can pass through the intersection while other delays are told when to stop. The issues that we do see with signals are now people might race to get through a signal. So you could see a small increase in speed when people are trying to make sure that they get through the intersection. And then if someone is accelerating while someone else is choosing to decelerate when a light turns yellow, you could see an increase in rear end crashes. There's also the opportunity that someone runs a red at full speed when someone else has started to turn in with their green. And so you could see an increase in the risk of like higher speed collisions. But I'd say the overall frequency based on like the sight distance issues and the patience issues that kind of plague the existing condition, I would see the collisions coming down as a result of that, as long as people play by the rules, which we know is tough. Tough to assume that everyone will do that. All right, so I'm running a little long. I apologize for that. Alicia, if you step on to the next slide. So traffic operations, just real quick, we got a table there that really showed the level of service for all of these alternatives explored with the previous data, that 2021 era data. That is the right table column of data. And then on the left would be our more recent data. So we did go through the effort of reconsidering all the previous alternatives just to make sure there wasn't a crazy change based on the new traffic volumes. What is highlighted there are the things that did change. So we see like the no build got worse. The future year will actually be worse based on the updated numbers being higher than what they were previously. The always stop control kind of similarly won't work as well in that future year as we thought it would previously because the numbers are greater than what we had previously predicted. Our signals, surprisingly enough, work better. The balancing of the legs with rebalancing the legs with the change in turning counts actually looks like it would perform better in that future year, which was kind of an interesting outcome. We do see that signals with southbound right turn lane. We only evaluated that with our current data. It's A's across the board. So the expectation is that would be A's for the previous data as well. And then the rest, speak for themselves. It's largely A's and B's for some of these alternatives like the realignment and the single lane roundabout. So not a substantial change because of the traffic data. There is that information on the right side there that talks about our signalized intersection level of service criteria, where the control delay per vehicle dictates how you kind of rate that level of service. So the level of service provided in that table is saying, how fast can you expect traffic to cycle through? So where we are getting A's and B's for our signal alternative, you'd expect that 10 to 20 second cycle delay. So nothing too crazy compared to what's out there today, where we had a 48-second predicted delay for that Depot Street leg. And I think we've heard anecdotally that might be underrepresentative of what time, how long some people might wait. So that's the summary of all the traffic analysis that we've done. I will speak a little bit more about our recommendations, but I want to hand it off to Don at this point to talk through the environmental assessment.
Right, thank you. So as Hans indicated, I'm going to talk about the environmental work that's been done to date in our process. And so I'll start with NEPA, which is also known as the National Environmental Policy Act, which requires DOT to review project areas for environmental resources. We evaluate project alternatives against these resources and what impacts we could have for them. We coordinate with environmental agencies. We assess the impacts to natural, cultural, and socioeconomic resources. We avoid, minimize, and mitigate impacts wherever possible. And we also prepare environmental documentation, which captures our view, our identified resources, and what impacts we may or may not have to these resources. Some of the environmental documents include, one is just a NEPA document, which is how we will document everything that we've looked at as part of the process, as part of the project. There's also a section 106, which has documentation associated with historic impacts, historic review, and archaeological reviews and impacts. And then there's also something called the section 4F, which that can incorporate when we have impacts associated with cultural or historic resources or wildlife refuges and recreational areas. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit. You go to the next slide, please. So this starts to talk about what wildlife resources and impacts that we have and have identified. So federal listed species, the only one we have is the monarch butterfly. It's proposed threatened, and right now it is a candidate species. For state listed species, we coordinated with NHB and New Hampshire Fish and Game, and there were no recorded occurrences of state listed sensitive species in this project area. Recommendations were, as far as, you know, like I said, there's not much here that we're going to impact, so we don't have any restrictions or requirement expected. So no time of year restrictions on work or anything like that. I have to go to the next slide, please. Resources and impacts associated with archaeology. So we had our cultural resources, and we had phase 1A, which is a site walk and a desktop review of the project area to look for archaeological resources, and then a phase 1B where they go out on site and actually do test pits and they dig around to see what is actually going on there. We identified mill building.
Send Alicia,
Oh,
advance one slide.
sorry, oh, sorry about that. NPR. Did I go out of order by accident?
Yes, we did.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
You wanna go
the
back?
natural resources.
Memorized it very well. I didn't get it done.
Sorry about that, Alicia, that was my fault.
You know that.
Archaeology one.
I'll just do this now and then I'll go back to natural resource after. Sorry about that. Thank you for noticing.
Let's talk about that. You realize under the existing Main Street, right at that intersection at 10 feet down is a corduroy road. You know what that is? It's logs that are made in layers to bring that intersection up to the height it is. So when you start digging in that intersection, no guy with a spade is gonna go find those logs, but a guy with a huge backhoe is gonna find them. And they are there, because our water lines run over. So when you talk about what, out behind here, if you dug out, you probably find some Indian bones. That intersection was a railroad intersection. It was made for hold, that's why it's still sitting there, because it's held that road through the years. And I don't wanna misspeak for any of your memorized presentation, no offense.
Not offended. That's a good comment. I appreciate it.
You're all worried about the time it takes people to stop. Well, somebody in life right now slowed down a little, just, it isn't killing them. We are the east-west highway, we know. This is the 15th time in the last 21 years I've been sitting in one of these chairs that I've heard about the plan about this intersection. I heard about going over the hill, go across to the high school, gonna end up over and take out 40 homes and end up on 140. I've heard this. My question is there a cure or is there no need for a cure? If I was gonna open a small business, I'd open it right here on this street. Because people slow down and they'll stop there and shop there and leave. I don't care about that 1.9 seconds sitting at a stop sign. I want them to slow down and stop. We proved that on 106 with, at the interchange, the development that's happened there. What's happening on 106, and that's a 50-mile-an-hour road. There's no way around. We are the east-west highway. But what I do have here is something I want you to take. I would like to have you take this, and I want to meet that person. You know me well enough to know that I want to meet him. Because one of your engineers just issued a driveway permit off 140 over a swamp. Under that permit is the sewer pipe that goes from Belmont to Franklin. And that pipe has been crushed now. Whoever wrote that permit, they should be in a court of law. And it's wrong. And the town of Belmont, and the cure from the state, the lady that came here, and it's not your fault. But the lady that came was the highway expert. It's only $10.4 million to put a new pipe in. We have 345 users of the water and sewer. You think they can afford $10 million? I want you to hand that back to somebody for me. I've known you a long
I
time.
would certainly speak with District 3 after the meeting. We do have, to answer your first question, though, we do have a couple solutions. And I think we're a little slow, but we'll get there. We've got a couple solutions, and I think that's what we're.
Let's start with the cake and never mind the frosting.
Great point.
Once I get through the environmental, I'm gonna go back to Hans and he'll go over recommendations and we'll field questions.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece is, the reason I wanted Dylan to speak, is that we have federal requirements and federal laws in order to do that. And we were here last time and we had the realignment as an option, and the realignment's no longer an option for us. So I think we have, we've got a signal and we've got the always stop still, and those are going to be the two solutions. But it was really important for Dylan to be able to explain that, we have federal requirements here. We didn't quite have all of that information as we understood a little bit more of that potential impact of the historic district. We knew that we wouldn't be able to move forward with a realignment option. So that was part of the reason. And I think the archaeology, which you kind of speak to with the road building, but certainly all of the historic resources, or above ground resources that we're concerned with are the biggest issue for us. If we
You're not really digging with what you're.
right now, we're not
Yeah.
proposed outside of the Mass Arm foundations, but the Always Stop has relatively minor. It's all surface level and sidewalks. For the Mast Arm location, we have drilled shafts, and so there would be some impact there. But I don't have all the details in front of me, but certainly I would hope that if your water line is above the Corduroy Road, that at least our mast arms, the foundation would be at that level. We've got some pretty big iron that we could probably.
There's gonna be a solution.
There is a solution. So we could probably go a little bit quicker, but go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah. So I was saying, we did have our archaeological assessments and studies done, which identified resources. However, I will say we did not identify the roadwork resource you mentioned. So we took notes and we'll look into that. And from our recommendations from coordination was basically that we were going to commit to avoiding impacts that we identify, avoiding impacts to the identified features listed above. So if I can get you to go back one, because I missed that one, Alicia, that'd be great. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I'll just quickly say, this is just this is what we identified for our natural resources. We don't anticipate any major impacts to any of these, but just a quick highlight. We don't have any floodplains here. We do have we have a river, we have intermittent streams, wetlands. We reviewed this in accordance with the US EPA and MS4 AOT water quality treatment requirements. We're going to follow all those requirements. And wetland permits and post-construction stormwater treatment not required for the always stop. Wetland permits may be required for wetland impacts anticipated with widening or significant intersection changes, and stormwater treatment may be required for widening or significant intersection changes. So if I get you to skip 2 over to the resource and impacts historic surveys, that would be great. Just trying to keep you all on your toes. All right, thank you. So as I indicated, there's something called Section 106, which is part of the National Historic Preservation Act. It's a process that we have to follow, which includes anything from our review of historic resources to our public involvement with historic and cultural resources. So just to give you a little timeline of what we've done, we got our RPR, which is the request for project review, completed, and we have a response from the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources. DHR recommended that archaeological and historic surveys, including potential inventory updates, which we have done. Historic inventory was completed, and I previously indicated that we did our archaeological investigations. So we identified that the Belmont Factory Village Historic District is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. So just some context, whether something is registered or is eligible, we treat it the same way at DOT. Those are both considered to us to be registered resources. So there was 3 individual properties that we surveyed after that village was identified. All 3 of these properties were determined to be not individually eligible for inclusion in the register. However, we're all contributing elements to the Belmont Factory Village Historic District. So then historic effect evaluations. So anything, all of our potential impacts that we have need to go through final determination from the Federal Highway and consultation with the Department of Historical Resources, or Division of Historical Resources, excuse me, after we select an alternative. The always stop alternative likely has no effect on this historic district. However, other alternatives do likely have adverse impacts to the historic district. And I'm going to pause here for a moment just to kind of use an example here. As Jason and Hans indicated, the reason that the realignment is no longer a major consideration is because it would have the impact to those properties that we would have had to take in order to construct that kind of turning lane or through lane that way would have resulted in an adverse effect to section 106 resources. And by that, I mean that by impacting those properties who are contributing features to the historic district, then that district would have an adverse effect because of the work proposed. Now, where that comes into play is that also ties into the other item I talked about, which was section 4F. If we have an adverse effect on a historic resource, then it can cause us to have a use of a section 4F resource. Now, a historic resource is a section 4F resource. Also, our wildlife refuges and recreational resources. So I know it's a lot, but essentially it says that when we do have a use of a 4F resource, we are legally required, if possible, to choose a least harmful alternative that also satisfies the purpose and need. And that's where the signals and that's where the always stop come into play. Both of these alternatives do satisfy the project's purpose and need and are less harmful to a 4F resource than the realignment or the roundabout, so to speak. So that's kind of how we got in this boat now, where we have determined that if we go through with that realignment, but I should say we have determined that we cannot go through with the realignment because of that process. So I hope that helped. So if I could just get you to go to the next slide, please. And thank you. And then this slide is just an overview of the National Historic Preservation Act, section 106, and it also talks about consulting parties. Essentially, anybody with a direct interest in historic resources or stakeholder to the project has the right to obtain consulting party status through federal highway. And the contact information for our New Hampshire division program manager, Mr. Jamie Sikora, is up there. So you either email him or let me know, and you can get established as a consulting party on this project. And it's just more of an advisory role where you can comment, you can request information from us, things like that, and give your input on the project's design process. So with that, I believe I've covered all of what I would like to talk about, and I'm going to pass it back over to Hans.
Awesome. I think I can be a little faster here on the back end, so I'll have you skip 2 slides ahead, Alicia. We're covering now the recommendations. So John's point earlier, what are we doing here? We have a table on the next slide that is in black and white and therefore not super useful to the folks in the room, and I apologize for that. It is a red, yellow, green kind of stoplight consideration. So green being good, yellow being there's some considerations there, and then orange is actually there's more that makes it a little contentious, and red would be it's a no-fly zone. So we have a large black line through the middle of the graphic. So above that line is our no build, which is always an option for a project. If we cannot find an alternative that satisfies everyone, we can not do anything. But the 2 other alternatives that really remain on the table after our traffic analysis and our refined understanding of the 4F resource impacts that the realignment would have. So we are proposing then the always stop control that we spoke about with you guys a year ago, and then the signal alternative as another option that is now eligible for consideration and would have a couple more hurdles in front of it, but generally speaking, we should be able to implement it. So I think the most important stuff to maybe focus on would be on the right side of this overall table. So the design schedule. The thing with our signals is that we would need to spend a bit more time. It's not as simple to figure out the mast arm locations and layout, especially knowing the underground utilities. Now these are the archaeological resource in the form of the logs under the roadway. There's other things that would need to be worked through. So the design schedule would probably kick out a little bit longer compared to the always stop control. It wouldn't be unreasonable that we can figure that out a little faster, right? The right-of-way impacts for all for either of those options should be small. Everything looks like it would be within the right of way. The thing with our mast arms is they're just a little bit bigger. So depending on the construction operations, you could see some need to go slightly beyond the right of way line. And as we continue to refine that alternative, we'd have a better understanding of what those impacts are, but it wouldn't require the acquisition of any properties or anything substantial. From a construction standpoint, always stop control, same sort of thing. We're talking a pretty fast one season job, put out some new signs, some new pavements, some new paint. So that could be done in a single season is what we'd anticipate. Whereas the signals, primarily because of the additional, I guess the advanced time to procure the mast arms, ends up being a much bigger operation. So once the contract is secured by someone from our contracting community, they'd have to place the order for the mast arms, and we have seen fabrication delays of up to a year. More recently, it's just hard to get things these days. And
Do you
so,
think if we go to signals that you're talking 2028, 29?
Yes. Yeah, so I wanted to get back to the schedule. So the always stop is easier. As Hans said, the mast arms and the layout that we have to go through the section 106 process. There may not be physical impacts to the historic district or the addition, the abutter and the historic parcel, but there could be aesthetic impacts. So we have to review the project with Division of Historic Resources in order to do that. It typically takes 6 to 12. This takes 6 to 12 months in order to clear that hurdle. So what we would have is if you said today that we really like the signal, then we're going to start working on that. We have to work through Division of Historic Resources. It's probably, again, 6 months before we clear DHR, and then we can get prepped for a public hearing.
I can solve this problem. Let's start with the stop signs and you continue on and get the signals done as soon as you can. I want both.
You're not wrong.
Do the stop sign, that can happen pretty quickly, which will help to alleviate the problem, because by the time you ever get to the signals, it's gonna be needed even with or without the stop signs. That would be my 2 cents worth on
I'm
it.
certainly not trying to make you frustrated by the schedule that it takes. But this is the matter, this is what we have to work through. This is federal requirements in order to get the federal dollars that have been applied for. In order to meet and check all those boxes, this is what we need to do.
I think that we all can attest that we all pay enough taxes and we've dealt with this for a long time. I guess my recommendation that I would recommend is that we do the stop. Let's get the stop and get things somewhat under control while you people spend the next 3 to 5 years getting, well, if it's getting the funding to do the lights. I mean, we've seen at the intersection of where the church is, we've seen those stop, that whole intersection has changed a couple times in the last so many years, okay? So that was possible. I don't even know if we even knew anything
But I'd like
about
to
it.
hear from our police chief for just a minute. Do we have a lot of accidents at Main Street and 140?
There's a significant amount.
Oh, with churches?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
oh, yeah.
they're over here.
There's
I agree with Ruth that the stop signs would be a first situation, and it would prove that lighting it, your lights, and maybe the peak hours from 3:30 to 5, and from 6 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock. And so if you had them, and if you've done a real traffic count, you can tell me how many cars are going east and how many cars are going west. And you look at that, you could set those things so you can put an arrow on them. But a lot of people, believe it or not, come off 140 and go down Main Street. You get to 106 and go south, because they're not going really to Concord, they're going. There's a couple of manufacturing plants now, they're going down that way. But I think the stop signs, I agree with you 100% on that.
When the-
Always stops.
So we've already spoken with Bureau of Traffic. We clearly can't do that this fall. We already have, right? But it's something that we can work on next spring, early summer, depending on when operations. These are the stop bars, the stop signs. There's some nuances there because we got to make sure that we've got space within the sidewalk, but we've got to figure that out. But it's something that we can work on for next year. And then certainly if this is the direction that you'd like to go, where the traffic signal is your preferred, then I really, what my ask of
I'm
you would
almost
be,
80. I want to see this happen in my lifetime.
yeah, my ask of you would be what is the next step for within the town? So I think we've got a really viable project now. We didn't quite have that before. I think we've got a couple interim solutions that certainly can be the always stop. We got a couple different avenues to look into. But that's some work that we can do when we head back to the office. But from the town's perspective, what do we need to do next with the community? Should we do another public informational meeting?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they're handling it as it is. They've lived with the situation. They live with, the biggest complaint is probably why don't we pave Dearborn Street? Well, we probably could last year. I talked to the soon to be highway department. And how fast do you want them to go over Dearborn Street? So we got a couple bumps in the road and slows them down.
Why don't we make it one way? Why don't we make it one? I know the fire department, the police department will go crazy, but make it one way, right?
The people that know the route, they come over the hill. Again, we've got some businesses that are opening up in this town on 106. And they require employees and it's in we're the east-west. What happens when you get to Belmont, New Hampshire? You turn left or right.
Mhm.
You got no choice. You either go back where you come from. I appreciate the help. I think we spent enough money of the state's money and your guys' time to come out and explain this. I mean, the bypass over here, then I asked him, what are you gonna do in Gilmanton? Because 140 goes through Gilmanton, so if you get through Belmont, your next road's Gilmanton, and nobody gonna let them tear down those buildings in Gilmanton.
Yeah, but the stop signs in Gilmanton, I think work awesome.
They do,
I go over.
but I mean, you get,
there.
they wanted to really
work it out.
create an east-west highway, and they were right, they needed Route 89. If you're in Lebanon, or if you're in Laconia, how do you get to Hanover?
If they start the always stops and then later decide to go with the signals, can they still do both with the funding, or if they choose one way, that's it?
Oh, no, they'll have to find more funding. They're gonna use their.
So we did funding for the signal.
They're gonna, so you're not gonna use the funding for the stops?
No, the project would be the signal project. And then
Okay.
we would look to identify some resources within our traffic sign shop and paved
And do
marking
the
crews
stops
and
and
try
do
to do that earlier. We have a program that Bill Lambert
Right.
came and spoke about our
Right.
all-way stop.
Right.
I don't know where that project is. They're looking for 20 intersections throughout the state of New Hampshire to be able to study and then identify the before and after of installing an all-way stop. So that is certainly an opportunity, but I'm not going to commit to using that program because I don't know when they're going to install all the stop signs for those.
Problem is if we sit here and say, well, we'll wait till 2029, if we're lucky, okay, to do the signals. But this is now 2025, and we had this problem. And, can't we get a little bit of help here to,
So can we flip it? We got the schedule. So the 2029 would be the completion. I just want to make sure that 2025 is today, 26 is really, is within a 3 week. It's gonna take us,
Still 3 years.
with the signal alternative, it will take us a year to get through our environmental process and have a public hearing. We'd have a formal public hearing just in case we have temporary impacts. That's our right-of-way process. From there, it will take a year to get the permits, to get the construction plan. So that's the end of 27. So you're looking at 28 as the beginning of construction. This is and when we can order the materials. We don't know at this time when we could receive the mast arms, the cabinet for the traffic. So that's why, I know that's part of it, but it does take 6 to 9 months with our contracting process in order to.
Understand it, but I agree with Ruth, we put the stop signs up.
No, we can start working on that as well. I want to make sure.
Is we all know. You could sit here and say to us, we're gonna do the signals. But those monies could get blown out of the water or somewhere else, and we not ever get the signals. But we have the problem now.
Well, we have the 10-year plan is a state law that this project is in the 10-year plan and it's in the draft 10-year plan. So if the governor signs that in June, we still have the money for this project. Your money is here in the program. We're not moving that. We're moving forward with the project. Ultimately, does the town support the project? It sounds like yes, it supports the traffic signal. And we've got some work to do over the next year to make sure that we can deliver that project with our federal partners.
What's your thoughts?
I think the stop signs, I'm always thought about reduce traffic crashes for sure. And it would also reduce the speed on Main Street.
Oh, I know, because the speed is.
You know, whether it's coming, you know, when we get complaints, people not being able to cross right at town hall. Well, people are gonna have to slow down and stop at the stop sign. So it's gonna be reduced speed. So I think from a safety standpoint.
So do the stop signs right now working towards the signal?
I have two questions.
Yeah.
So you say that we only have 500 that is set aside for this project, which you're, forecasting 810. So where would that 310 come from? Would that be the town or would you be asking the state for more money?
No, I believe it's 505. I'm going to go back to the slide just to make sure I'm quoting the right numbers. 505 is what we have in our construction budget. The other 305 is already in the program. It's for the engineering and the right-of-way acquisition. So that's part of, that's federal dollars and
The
state
town
message.
Anything.
No, there's no town.
This is not a town issue.
That's
It's a
correct.
town issue, but it's a state.
It's a town project that was submitted for the 10-year plan, but it's federal dollars.
And then my other question, I think I just lost. What would, you had said that there was a always stop program to see effects. What would the town have to do to, get on that, to be considered for one of the towns to be as their, case study? Would it be a letter? Would it be a recommendation from you?
It's a really great question. I don't want to commit to that. The only reason is because I don't know when that always stop project is going to go to construction. So I don't want to promise something and then find out that it's not going to be completed for another year. But I certainly think if we install the stop signs, that our safety group is going to be really interested in. Yeah. But I think to Hans's effort, there was a couple of things that in the recommendations, right? So we have two options. We have an always stop. We could go, at least in your slide package, you're going to see a little bit larger project. The idea was we're going to maximize the use of the budget that we had, and we can upgrade some of the pedestrian crossings, the sidewalks, and at least use up all that budget. With the signal, it's going to be a little bit more robust and it's going to be concentrated. Can't guarantee that I can go and find more money at this point because the 10-year plan is pretty constrained. So I think that you've got a traffic signal, and in the interim, we could put up stop signs and stop bars that, for the intersection to kind of assist with that, but it doesn't get you all the sidewalk infrastructure. It doesn't, certainly isn't going to get new pavement through here. So I just wanted to make sure that we're clear that if we go down this path, and it sounds like the town supports that, of moving forward with an interim always stop, which is our Bureau of Traffic and Operations group installing stop bars and stop signs for this intersection. We will continue down the path with the traffic signal. And then we could have a check-in in, say, 6 months, maybe early next summer, just to let people know where we're at. Are we going to install, the stop bars and stop signs, and where? Because by that time we might have an idea of what DHR is thinking with the impacts that we have for the traffic signal. So then we would have a better timeline. I can offer that. And then I think most importantly is that something the town can support? And would you be willing to send me a letter saying, we support the project still, we support the traffic signal, we support an interim always stop?
I think that we should have some stop signs. I mean, let me ask anybody here. Yes.
My name's Edward Forsythe. I live at 153 Main, right next to the hardware store.
Yeah.
I think the stop signs and stop lights would help. I'm with the chief of police on that. I think it would reduce any kind of issues like that. Unless any of you have been in an emergency room and seen a car accident victim or anything like that, like I have, you might not think that they're important. I'm telling you they are. There was a car accident up at Gunstock a few years ago, 3-car MVA, that had a woman completely crushed. And I got her blood all over me and all over my boots. Traffic up there was crazy. I've gone up there before. They didn't have as many signs, lights, or whatever as they should have. I think that they would make a great improvement,
If nothing else, it's.
but I don't think it should take 6 months or a year to do that. If it takes somebody getting killed to have that put in, reassess, reevaluate on the state end and figure out whether if one accident prevented is worth you guys going with that with your bosses and saying, you know what, it is something to take a look at, and we should probably do it sooner than later. I mean, I was on my way home and I saw one car in the ditch across from the firehouse yesterday. So
No, I did too. I went down, went in the back road. I mean, it just, yeah. I think that my opinion is to get some stop signs. Get it stopped but that's only until the signals are, when we're looking at 3 years out, hopefully only 3 years out, we need something now, not, and if nothing else, I think that will kind of get people in that mode of stopping. And then when the lights go up, it's kind of already in their brain, so to speak, that they know there's gonna be something at that intersection that they've got to slow down to. And I think it would make that, to go from the stop signs to the signals pretty,
And ma'am, I don't want to be melodramatic, but it's like if nothing is done and you wait 3 years to do something, how many accidents do you think are going to pop up over there? The chief of police has already said that there have been significant issues there. How many accidents are you willing to let happen before you do something about
And
it?
I was surprised yesterday morning, I went early through the main street, I don't know, 6:30, whatever time it was. And I was, I don't usually go up and down Main Street that early, but I did. And I was surprised at the number of, guys going to work, small utility trucks and whatever. Both times when I went up and came back through, and I'm going, wow, this is a busy little intersection at 6:30 in the morning too.
I see them all the time.
And
I
you're
live right in front of it. I see it all the time. So don't think that the stop sign and stop lights aren't gonna do anything. Because you don't see those intersections. You're not there every day. You don't live in that area. I do. I can say what I've seen now.
So if I heard you correctly, you would be looking for a letter from the board saying that you agree with the recommendation of the signal, but with the stop signs and the stop bars.
now.
Now
versus-
until the signal. That's how I heard you.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So yes, they're saying yes to what you said.
Yeah,
So that's what they're. So if you're looking for your consensus of yes, we'll
Yes.
sign that letter, we'll do that if you can commit to the stop signs and stop bars as soon as you can work on it, and then we understand that the signal won't be completed until 28-29.
we worked really hard many years ago to get that signal at Plummer Hill in 106. Some of
We
us
all paid for it.
we had to pay
I mean,
for
we
it.
paid,
We as people that were up
Right.
there, our businesses had to pay for that because the state was adamant that there wasn't enough traffic on 106 to warrant that signal, okay? And I can't imagine what might have happened if that had not been put in with the amount of development that's taken place in the last few years at the top of that hill. And it has attracted more businesses up that way also. So I am gonna push for the lights.
The only issue I could maybe see is your congestion backing up in front of town hall for you guys to get out, cause you guys get out of there.
That's
but-
what they have, that's what they have sirens and blue lights for. And not for nothing. I still think we need to talk to the school. I think that is really something, even if it wasn't, I mean, I don't know how many buses go north and south along the six. I mean, I know going out, Concord Street to go left, north. That could be sketchy.
You think it's.
I think they would
the large
just continue
buses
their
are-
normal route that they go on now.
You think
I
so?
mean, if you look at where Monument is, that used to be a yield sign,
Mhm.
they now have to stop.
Yeah.
It's not congested all the way
Sure.
up Churchill, so I think it's just gonna slow everything
Education.
down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's really not that
Not
much.
gonna be that.
I think-
And obviously, when the buses are moving, I'm thinking, when the buses are moving, it's really before evening or rush hour, so to speak, or when we really see that backing up occurring. I think by that time, the buses are all kind of,
Yeah, so they're going
Gone.
between what, 2:15 and 2:45, 2:30, yeah.
It'd be the morning one.
Yeah.
that'd be the only
Yeah.
issue.
Typically here, it's the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that school is 7:25. But she's
so
at
many,
7:40.
so many parents take kids to school now, they don't ride the bus. That's huge, but we can't,
This is more important than.
yes, yeah. So we just blew your whole thing right out of the wall. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. No,
You're
I
right
think.
on cue, to be honest
I
with you.
think
This is,
that
this is good.
at least we're getting something done now. It might, well, you're not gonna make everybody happy no matter. That would be my thought.
Well,
We
certainly,
have our blessing, please.
I certainly appreciate the time. It's been a lot of work and,
Yeah,
being
but
able to.
I mean, I just get nervous that you're gonna go away and then not work on those lights. And on this schedule, I got this paper.
We got a bunch of, we got 25 pages.
Well, I know, but I mean, I got this paper that says, 3 years for a light.
Put some stuff on.
And I just think that the light is 3 years from now, the stop signs are gonna be an issue and it'll be time for the light.
Do you need a motion from the board or?
No.
just a letter?
No, we don't. I think however the board wants to, we just wanted to make the presentation and,
I'll make-
having community support is really
Stop signs
important.
at That intersection. Need a second.
Second, all in favor?
I,
Aye, and we will get a letter
do you,
accordingly. We'll get that letter done to you ASAP and,
Agreeing to the recommendation of the sixth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
great question too.
You guys.
and appreciate you going out and redoing that traffic thing because that was,
You guys know your network better than we do.
Fortunately, you guys have the exact same thing as me, so I'm gonna take it, yeah, do you know if you're
That's fun.
flat or shiny? I think so too. I was like, crap, I didn't. I know, so I'm gonna check it, actually.
We spoke about this, but we've got more plans to help out on this if you were interested.
I didn't know if we got an extra one of these.
We've got plenty of them over there. I have to do that staff with you guys. One thing I should have mentioned during the presentation, we printed some exercise labs. So the slideshow really ended at slide 31 and then the remaining slides were last week.
yeah, a lot of it was what we had talked about.
I'm just looking at the historical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
The other.
Again, is there anybody who's leave those staff over there?
Yep. Please. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time.
All right, yeah.
I hope that's yours. I don't know.
Feel free.
If not, I will, get you it.
We're not.
My computer won't do it.
You know,
It looks very good.
I don't think so either, I think
Yeah,
mine.
All right.
That's true.
Thank you guys so much for presenting.
Very good. Okay,
You wanna go back to your public hearing?
oh, we have a public hearing.
Oh, the
Everybody-
minutes, yes. Again.
Yeah,
We'll
you want,
reopen
you want
the
me to open
hearing
that meeting,
as-
okay, first, we're going to, we have the minutes of our Board of Selectmen's public hearing held on 11/18. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So,
A second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye, you sign those so we can get that. Thank you. And then it's now 11:40, and in accordance, I'm going to open for a public hearing in accordance with RSA 31:95-B to accept the opioid litigation settlement fund distribution in the amount of $11,856.22. Funds to be used in accordance with RSA 126-A:86.
Any public comment? We've been receiving
Yeah.
these funds for quite many years, and anytime it hits over $10,000, we have to hold a public hearing to accept those funds.
Yep.
Just give me the blue one.
Hearing no comments. We'll close that public hearing and we will open the public hearing at 11:42 to accept amendments to the town solid waste management ordinance originally adopted March of 2025, amended December of 2022. Do we have any public comment?
Not public comment, I do have just a couple of comments about what I included.
Yeah,
Excuse me, legal did review the entire ordinance, did not come back with any changes. The solid waste fee schedule is going to be a separate document so that it can be updated by the board when necessary changes.
okay,
And we don't have to do an amendment to the ordinance for that. And the pricing that is on the fee schedule that I
Yeah.
gave you is the most up-to-date information that we have for trash and recycling costs
Mhm.
to calculate the amount per barrel. And the hauler penalty fee at the very bottom is what I suggested. You can go up to $3,000 per violation. I put in $2,500 per violation on the presentation, but you have the ability to choose any amount up to $3,000 for that hauler violation.
I think that's 2,500, I guess, I don't, I think it's 25. That'd be my thought. Agreed.
Did you guys have any changes, concerns with the ordinance as drafted?
I don't. Nope. Okay. So we need to do,
So you can close your public hearing for both and then make your motions.
So quick question, so the additional trash cart annual cost, $305. You need an extra one,
And if you qualify, you have to still qualify for the regulations of the ordinance.
but it's 305.
Right
a year,
now,
right?
right now,
Yeah.
it's 150.
That's why I was, just wanted to make sure I was right.
Yeah.
Reading right.
hearing nothing from the public, we'll close our public hearing and we need both motions, correct?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll make, what,
Move the motion.
So
Which ones?
For-
The opioid?
Yep.
All right. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Second motion is to approve the amendments as presented to the town's solid waste management ordinance, originally adopted March 2005, amended December 2022. Do I have a second?
I'm second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the second motion would be to, motion to approve the solid waste fee schedule as presented.
Okay, I will second, so moved. Do I have a second?
You do. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. B, library expansion discussion.
Yes, at our last meeting, I had given you guys the information on what a bond may look like if we move forward with the expansion, with the total principal and interest. You had requested that I reach out to the library trustees to see if they would reconsider not putting the expansion onto the warrant article this year. I did reach out to them and I will read you their response via email. On behalf of the trustees of the Belmont Public Library, this is to inform you and the select board that the trustees have voted to withdraw the request for a bond to cover the cost of the expansion for the Belmont Public Library as presented to the select board on September 17th, 2025. The trustees feel that the plans presented will meet the needs of the community for the foreseeable future. We are firmly committed to the expansion plans and feel the timing of the bond issue is 2027. This will give us time to establish a fundraising committee, pursue grants, possibly hire a professional grant writer, and creatively seek donations. We will keep you and the select board informed as we proceed. Thank you for your support and efforts on this project. So they agreed.
All right. Okay. Fire department new hires.
Was my notes on the computer at the station, so that's on my phone.
That's all right.
So we have filled the last two permanent positions for the fire department.
Permanent.
The permanent ones, this doesn't include the other two current positions yet.
All right.
So, I've got two new hires that should be tentatively starting January, the first full week of January. They'll come in and do their day shifts once we kind of finish everything, but they've been given a conditional offer.
Okay.
The first one's name is Joshua Chandler. He's a firefighter AMT. He's in the reserves, Air Force Reserves. He's also a firefighter EMT there. He is actually finishing his paramedic in August. So he will be hopefully a paramedic by September. So everything happening. The second person that we've hired, Adam Ragu, he's a firefighter paramedic now. He's been on the job for approximately 5 years. He'll be also starting this first full week of January. They'll both be doing days with the shifts. This way they can kind of get acclimated to everything. Adam will probably go through his days a little quicker than the other gentleman because Adam's familiar with the area. He's employed in the area at this time. So he'll be a little quicker to get up and running on shift. And as I said, he is a medic right now. So that by September should give us at least 3 shifts with a paramedic on. And then hopefully, who knows what will happen with the grant position. We're still kind of working on that portion of it right now.
All right. Awesome. Good. Good.
So you do have motions for those? So I think
Make
Joshua.
hiring. First person's name.
Joshua Chandler will be the first one.
Okay, Joshua Chandler and firefighter.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also make a motion for the hiring of the second person.
Ragu.
Ragu?
It is, they call it sauce.
Sauce. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that.
That's not fair.
That might not be politically correct.
Use that name and.
Get sued.
What his nickname is to his face.
I wanna hire Ragu.
I'll second that.
You want garlic bread with it?
No, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, Bogey Busters Trail Agreement Renewal. I think we get this each year,
Yes, we do.
and that's just to do the trail.
Yes, you do have the option to do it indefinite every year or every 5 years. You guys did vote a year or two ago to do it every year, so that is up on, for renewal, and I have the trail permission and then the list of the, map and lot of the trails that they go on, and I'm just waiting for their insurance, but.
All right, I think that my feeling is, to do this yearly, only because everything
Well,
changes.
things change, the right beside our post office, they're gonna, Page Stone's gonna build a building.
So that.
That's right, and then we're here at the planning board, I asked them, I said, can you divert your building or can you move it? So that's how they get it, they come across what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Up to your house.
Yeah.
They said they would say, yes, I say yearly is the way to go.
I'll make the motion to approve the 1-year snowmobile trail use authorization for the Belmont Bogey Busters with a term to expire December 3rd, 2026. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
DPW waste oil furnace replacement. Okay, Ryan.
Yeah. Just another thing.
What's up, we need to
You got the big boy boots on now.
Yeah.
You
You'll have to
the
forgive me.
information.
Yes.
I'm a little taxed today, but
Are you taxed?
I'm tired.
Josh have the information that he's gonna present in.
Further down in.
I talked to him the other day.
Oh, you're all set.
So I did a little memo, but
Yeah.
I mean, I can give you the quick run.
Give us the 50 cent.
We
Sorry.
primarily heat our building with waste oil. Most of it comes from the shop and some of it comes from citizens around town.
Yeah.
We have 2 of them, one in each end of the building. It's a big shop. Takes a lot for recovery, so we run them both when we can. The last few years, the older of the 2 has been kind of acting up a lot, and it's been down more than it's been running. So there's some weird quirks to it, but the company that's doing the repairs for liability reasons or whatever won't do the repairs to some heat exchangers. So that leaves it to our mechanic to do. So there's some pictures in there that if you print them out for me.
Yeah.
That shows the heat exchangers, that shows some of the work he's already, yeah, it's just rotten away. It's a 2004. It's just not something that we can budget for. It's a pretty large expense. I reached out to the 2 companies that would respond to me. They're kind of comparable. It's like 17,000 and some change. And then there's some electrical work that'll have to go along with it because it needs some upgrades to meet code. And then there's one other thing that the fire chiefs are here right now. So I do want to, before we pull the trigger on it with your approval, I want to make sure that there's no compliance updates that we have to address in addition to this, because you guys still do furnace inspections. Right? So before we actually sign a contract, when we get a chance, I'd like to have them come by.
And this is coming out of capital.
This, Alicia had what she had in mind.
Yeah, we would take this out of the municipal facilities capital reserve.
So, but you'll see some immediate reduction in our propane costs.
Of course.
It's last year it was down more than it was. We sunk some money into it last year. I just, at this point, I don't want to sink multiple
Thousands
hours
of
of grinds time plus.
You brought up a question I have to ask. I wanna see their propane bill. Because you guys should be buying it. Because my group, we're under $2 a gallon propane. And the town doesn't have to pay tax, whereas at $1.96 is what? I got 3 million gallons of propane.
Yeah, we've already locked in our propane bill. I don't have, the 26.
I know you locked it in, but it
number.
should be about $1.60 a gallon propane.
I think it's
169.
What?
You
No.
locked it in at 169.
That'd be about right, because it's $1.96 and you don't pay the tax. On about $1.96 for my average customer, there's a tax on propane. Fuel
And,
tax.
So between what you produce from your trucks and what you're getting from outside sources, people dropping it off, you get enough.
Oh, yeah, for the most part. I mean, Mr. Gardner stopped by the shop yesterday and was it yesterday? I was scared, the day before.
Yeah.
Dropped off, 10
Propane
gallons or
is
so.
$1.50.
Say it again.
So-
$1.50 for propane.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
we don't advertise it.
No, No, it's just word of mouth or
Yeah,
people know.
everybody uses it, they love it, no one more little tree stop by and get rid of it.
Awesome, all right. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a waste oil furnace for the highway garage.
Are you going with the cheaper one, the Durgio?
So they both have similar warranties, 1 year bumper to bumper, we'll say, and then 10 years on.
So instead of giving the exact amount, because again, you still aren't quite sure
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
So can we say a motion to approve? Here we
Yes,
go.
you can, you don't have to do the amount.
Okay, all right, just, okay, so a motion to approve the purchase of the waste oil furnace for the highway garage with funds to come from the municipal facilities capital reserve fund.
And all other associated costs such as the electrical upgrade, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, that's correct. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sorry, that kind of, whichever way works best for you.
Okay.
And again, you know, you put down what, 1,000 approximately.
yeah, he told me he could do
Yeah.
it for less than
Yeah.
1,000.
Yeah,
so-
that's fine. Okay. Because there's always something that pops up, it seems like. But, 2026 capital reserve funds.
Yes, in front of you, you have a list of the suggested amounts to fund the current capital reserves that we typically put money into each year for the foreseeable future and for needed cost upcoming. The only ones that I, really wanna, or have more questions on, or if you're comfortable with these numbers is, do you want to still fund the municipal facilities at 500,000? Do you wanna reduce it? Do you wanna increase it?
I would keep it the same. Anyways,
Yes,
at least.
absolutely.
And a reminder, this is not just for the mill, it is for every single
No,
bill
I
that we have
but-
now.
What I'm wondering is trying to figure out a way to address the mill itself. So should we kick around the thought of having or creating a capital reserve specifically for that purpose? Or putting a new question on the ballot using a number, asking flat out for the money to refurbish the mill for town hall purposes? Cause I know it's gone out on the ballot before, but it's been at least 13 years. And I keep getting well, it went out, use it for town hall, sell it, demolish it. They all went out at one time. And I think that it would be a great service to this project to say, listen, we need to do this, we need to have a town hall. This is how much the estimate is gonna cost. Do we have your permission to go forward?
It'll never pass.
It's kind of like.
You're right,
but-
I'm not disagreeing with you, but
Right,
it'll never pass.
cause I'm thinking if we had a capital reserve specifically for that purpose, like the library does.
I understand that, but the library trustees made a decision. The decision was not to go ahead and put on $1 million or $2 million expansion to the library. Right now, the way people feel about their tax bills, and not just in Belmont, pretty much anywhere in the area, the first answer is gonna be no.
So let me just ask one question. The municipal facilities is like for a furnace, for a roof, for whatever,
Yep.
okay? We're dealing with fire department, those kind of things. So can we add a capital reserve to this?
Yeah.
And maybe change. Because then you got, well, you can reduce the municipal facilities amount to, let's just say 200,000. And then have a second capital reserve that is listed as,
300, 400.
right, mill upgrades, I guess, or
Specifically
mill
for-
or whatever. Specifically for the mill, that's
Renovation.
exact, renovation or whatever. Maybe, and get rid of the 500 and separate that out. Can we do that?
Mhm.
What do you think? I mean, it's either gonna pass or it's not gonna pass, but at least if we get the municipal facilities.
Unless I'm mistaken, we put $500,000 in there, and we already have, we'll say 300,000, 400,000. that's in that account. And we need to spend $200,000 to put a furnace or a heating system or a plumbing system in this building. That's up to us at a meeting like we're having right now. That's not up to the voters.
I think they're trying to just establish, like, let's just create a whole new one that is specifically, because
It doesn't
everyone,
mean,
When they're
John,
renovating.
it doesn't mean, okay, that we have this municipal facilities account. Say we put $200,000, whatever's in it, and then we've created a second capital fund for improvements. Well, that doesn't mean if the furnace here in the mill dies, that we can't pull some money from the municipal facilities, because it is a,
But I'm gonna give you the old adage that I've stood on now for 21 years. The more things you give them to vote on, the more confused they are, and the no's outweigh the yeses, because they don't know really what they're voting on. So to vote no, they think they're secure. And I watched it happen, sit there and watch these people walk in, get their voting card, and they're not in that booth 10 minutes. They didn't read a warrant on it.
I would say, my opinion, if you're asking, is,
They're asking.
I
am.
everyone seems to say no to this one recently because they think it's to fix the mill. So if you separate it out, you make it very clear that, we're starting to create one that is just for the mill. Well, then those who don't want to vote on us going here can vote no on that, but now they're not hurting us collecting money for
Right.
all the other.
for the other
buildings.
things that we need money to be
So
able to keep those
And
buildings.
that's the
up.
only thing I've ever heard people, the reason why they're all of a sudden saying no to it.
I still keep them as one item, not two. That's the only reason, because I watched it, I listened to them talk, I sat outside in the rain and snow and shit and listened to them. Down talk, because they don't know what we need or what we go through as a town. They have no idea whether stop bars, stop lights, stop signs, they got no idea. See in 3 years, if once 4 stop signs, and we'll see in 3 years. I think we need the money in the account, so I would say I'd move it, but if you wanna make it divided into 2 accounts, then you're gonna have to tell them what 2 accounts it's going.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it should be, right, you still have your municipal facilities. And whatever the figures we put into that, and then we create the next line, and that will be the, mill upgrade, however you want to,
So why don't you, instead of increasing the amount we raise, unless you really wanna increase it, you could do 200 to the municipal facilities and then do 300. Create a capital reserve specifically for mill renovations, and let's go with 3, so then you're not increasing what you're, asking, unless you want to get this finally rolling and going.
okay, so let me just ask you one thing. What do we have in the municipal facilities? I don't need the exact.
Around 600.
Okay, all right, because when I'm looking at, again, $200,000, if we have to do some repairs to the fire station or whatever,
Doesn't go anywhere.
isn't it awful?
Yeah, but about
6,000 like how I think about 2,000. Yeah, that's how I would do it. I would just separate it out.
Would you like to make that motion, Ms. Chair?
Oh, sure, we're gonna get drag on. So I'll make a motion that we separate the municipal facilities capital reserve fund and leave 200 in that, and then put 300 in, however we list it as being the mill. I don't know if
It
it
shouldn't
should.
be just a mill, it should be a buildings account.
Well, that's what the municipal facilities, the
Facilities.
municipal facilities will stay as it is. And then we'll create one
We
for
can
mill
justify that with the
Yeah,
problem
right.
we have with the fire department, or
Right.
in the case of waste oil furnace, we need it, at the highway department, that's where that money can come from.
Yep,
Yeah.
so that one will stay as is for that purpose,
Yeah.
which it was still intended for all buildings, which the mill
Yes.
is still that building.
I
so
know,
you can
it's still
use
that building,
money.
and you could still,
But-
you could still pull monies from that,
can.
but then at least it's
Or
separated.
start creating one that's just for the
Yeah.
mill.
Well, if it's for like mill renovations with the goal of changing it to town hall, right?
Correct.
Once you're like done a project and you have a capital reserve for it, you can close them.
Oh, yeah, I just wouldn't recommend you funding it anymore.
Right,
So like, had we gotten all the money to finish this, we would have reduced that 500 down to 100 or 200. that we would need to kind of, plan for the unexpected. So the only reason why the 500 is at 500 is because we were trying to do, 500 each year. And then after 3 or 4 years, we would have been done. We wouldn't have had to bond.
The 300,000
been
was,
reduced.
was half, is when it hit 5, then it hasn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And but that's what I hear is, well, what do you got 600,000 in there, what do you need that much money for? And so if it's separated out that way, that maybe it'll help.
Okay, well, it was a $2 million project too, so,
Oh, yeah, it's.
and we've already started on floor 4 and we started on floor 1. So you still got it, and we replaced that, we got a $100,000 elevator, we got a $100,000 generator, like we have to just keep going with it.
We have to keep going with it. I mean, yeah, and just the cost of keeping this building,
Yeah,
Right
we
up
pay each
at
year for
this
the
point.
heat, the
you
electric.
don't understand,
Cleaning.
even though we're not in here, we're still heating this whole thing, still maintaining the sprinklers and all of that stuff. So it's, yeah, okay, I'm gonna make, and the contingency fund, I feel should just stay.
Well, I'm sorry, hold on, because we had a motion and a second.
Oh, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
And then for the contingency fund, do we want to keep it at 20? Do we want to reduce it? Do we want to increase
No,
it?
I would just leave it as is.
So we haven't spent it yet. I do have a request or several requests for you guys to consider to spend it. You did raise and appropriate the funds for it. I would suggest that you use it instead of letting it lapse to general.
Right,
fund.
because it doesn't, the contingency fund has to be refunded each year.
Correct. We
Right.
can't roll
We
it
can't,
over. We
right,
have to
we
give it
can't
back
roll
to the general
I think
fund.
the 20,000 is good.
Yep, yep. I would just leave it as it is
Okay.
at this point.
And then underneath, we have for the ambulance special revenue fees, funds. We have our committed, payment of 105,000 for the ambulance. The 149,500 is restricted, the first 149,500 is restricted from fund balance, and that basically offsets general fund for expenses to the fire department. Then we also have our payment on the fire tanker replacement in the amount of $69,048 for a total of $323,548. This year, the fire department did go for the Granite State Clean Fleets Diesel Grant Program. They were awarded that in the amount of 500,000, leaving us about 377,000 to fund, if we want to move forward with that. Steve does have, sort of that presentation on how he best suggests that we fund that. And he can come up now while we're discussing that. That was the, side sheet that I gave you, with the funding schedule. Yep.
So Alicia just wanted me to take a look at how we could fund the additional 377,000. So 500 was for the grant,
Right,
and then we have to come up with the other 377.
right.
So we looked at the ambulance account, does it all come from the ambulance account? Does it have to get put in through the voters and kind of create an expense line? So what you see in front of you is really just kind of a cash flow analysis. This shows the money that comes into the ambulance account and out of the ambulance account. And this is starting in 2026. So kind of a guesstimate right now that account will end at 310 this year, and starting with 310,000 in 26. I underestimate a lot of these numbers. So you'll see I use 25,000 per month for revenue that comes in that
You
account.
should never know. I
You don't
mean,
know.
Just picking out average.
It's actually average closer to 30, but
It's always nice to have a little.
yeah, you don't really want to keep that,
No.
that tight. And my problem is I don't want this account to,
Right,
kind of go away, if you will. So you'll see, starting in 26, it starts at around 310,000, revenue comes in. So I just want to show you the money in and out and kind of how it looks. So from January to May, 25,000 per month equals 125,000. Then we have to make in April the first tanker payment that we just purchased last year. So that first payment comes out, more revenue comes in, the warrant article comes out of that account, like Alicia says. mentioned. And then we have the ambulance account money coming out in October. So just based off this cash flow at the end of 2026, you'll see that there's about 286,000. And I'll just mention, I won't go through the whole thing, but in 27, if we fund this new truck with 50%, so only half the money coming from the ambulance and half coming from the expenditure line, you could just look at each ending balance. And in my opinion,
Going down.
it's going down, but actually I think it would be doable paying 50% of the money, or the loan, if you will.
For the balance.
For the balance. For the 377, we'd have a loan on that, a balance. 50% of the payment would come from the ambulance account, and 50%, in my opinion, would come from the expense line.
So the big question is, okay, is that we should already have an ambulance ordered. A new ambulance.
We just got one, but we're gonna need another.
We need, because it's gonna take 2.5 to 3 years to get a new one.
So the other ambulance payment that we just got but have been paying for
Right.
falls off in 2028.
Okay, so if that goes off in 2028, about the time we get the next one.
Yeah.
But the problem is, can we order a new ambulance before we have the voters saying that we can order a new ambulance? I don't know how,
I think we can, because I think life safety, fire, with fire and police. And the highway department, when it comes to,
but
I think we can.
You would have to see if they would do like we're doing now, order it, will they still make it, but know that we can't commit to it until the voters commit to it.
right, I
And they
think
get
that
it in the
I think we
process.
did that.
And I think you'll find that these companies that are building them would love to have the order.
Oh, sure, and then
Yeah.
then the voters
So
don't
we
get it.
spent, we'll say
Sure.
we had to give them $10,000 to write the order. We know we got a deal when they're done with building this thing. And we want a delivery date, depending on what those people over there say, 2 years. We want this ambulance in 2 years, so we'll give you $10,000 now. Commit to it,
Yeah.
we're gonna buy it from you.
Deb, do you know if they
Excuse
would
me.
do it?
So, I mean, I can't speak for every company, but I know like with the tanker, he already committed that tanker to us without the vote.
Yeah.
However, if the vote said no, we were free and clear.
Oh, okay, so that was not an
Tanker.
uncommon thing then.
Yeah, so I would like to think that if I talk to, the ambulance company that we've been going through and say, listen, we want another mirrored ambulance.
We wanna get in the system.
Right, so, and the guys seem to like this new one we have. I think if I was to talk to him and say, I mean, I'd like to think that he would say, okay, we can start building this, because hopefully, if hypothetically it doesn't go through. you can
There's
turn around
somebody
and
else,
sell it
right,
to somebody
well,
else.
you know, if anybody saw the article on Laconia,
Yeah.
they went out and bought a used one
Yeah.
because 2.5 years. And we're probably, and I don't know, let's say the old ambulance now, because we haven't the new one, the old ambulance, let's hope it holds up for 2.5 years. I mean, that's the scary part.
So in Laconia's thing with buying their used ambulance, it's because they're increasing ambulances, they're going from 3 to 4.
Oh, are they?
So, because what's happens is one goes out, they run 3 now, so if one goes out, then they're down to 2. So that's why they did bring in a used ambulance.
Which is good for us, because
Right.
obviously that's mutual aid and that's,
So that was kind of the reason why they did that. For them, they couldn't wait 2 years to bring up their ambulance supply. So to me, if we were to say buy a used ambulance right now, we've already got a used ambulance in a day. in a sense.
Is your
Plus, it was much better
concern
than what we had.
if we were to get that
okay. so
next ambulance?
Are we,
that's not
is
that
this
well.
going to be able to support this? That's what I'm concerned
I'd
about.
have to put
Yeah,
that in there.
yeah, because you've got the tanker lease payment,
Right.
you've got. If the voters approve the 300, which,
So, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
we'll have that. And then you've got the lease payment on the ambulance, the new one.
You would have it, depending upon what year it happens, so.
Right, but if it didn't happen till 28, which in reality, it probably,
And then it's just replacing
then you're just replacing.
the 105 that's falling off.
That's
for the,
correct.
for the other ambulance.
But the thing that makes me nervous is the ambulance lease payment now at 105. It's probably gonna be more than 105,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah, I
only
would think,
guessing.
yeah, I would think.
Very
Okay,
well busy.
right.
Yeah.
Um,
And then, you know, it would affect obviously years 29, 30, 31, and all. And I mean, that's why I kind of laid it out like this, so you guys can see the money in, money out. And then it brings that question, okay, if we do an ambulance, well, that number's not in here.
right,
It's kind of simple to plug it in and say,
right.
now it does raise it.
And we don't know what that new ambulance is gonna cost. Who
Right.
knows? I,
Do we know how long it's still taking if we were ordering it?
So Chief Pittsburgh called up and talked to our salesman last week. And basically, if we were to order one today, it would be about 2 years, we'd be looking at.
So it'd be still about 28, so we'd be swapping that 105 for another one with a little bit more, but we still do have cushion room if you were
Right.
to.
Right.
Support that one.
Okay, because I wasn't here when you guys bought it. The year you bought it, did the payment? Did it just start the following year, once you made that commitment?
To start it early, didn't we?
I know
We
that
put a
we.
down payment, we
So-
put a down payment.
But then we also started paying,
You started making
we
payments.
started making payments before
23.
it arrived, because for.
Oh, yeah, we've
unfortunately,
been
that-
paying for 2
Yeah,
years.
2 years.
Yes, unfortunately, that truck, it just, because of everything, it kind of got pushed out a little bit further anyways. Just because of everything with backlogged at
Right.
at that
And
time.
who knows what's gonna,
So,
yeah,
But so I guess that's my question, if we purchase the ambulance, are we now on the hook for just the same process again? Are we now entering into a loan, which then starts 27 or
Right.
28,
yeah,
you know?
well, no, it won't, yeah.
I mean, the other alternative, obviously, is for the new fire truck is not to take it out of the ambulance with the
And that was-
expectation that we may get another ambulance.
Well, and, okay, so this brings up my other question. All right, we have this truck that we have $500,000
Right.
grant on. Should we be taking that money out of this ambulance fund? Or should we be supporting it,
Finance.
finance it?
Either finance or pay for it.
Right, that's
Through
exactly.
an expense line. Yeah, so
That's where I'm a little, I'm on the fence. I feel we shouldn't be paying for it out of the ambulance fund. We should be paying it and,
to give you a ballpark, it's about 85,000.
right.
So,
And that would go on the ballot each year if it was no, not if it was a,
So it
Most of
depends
our
how you,
Most of our taxpayers don't understand that any monies collected in the fire and ambulance fund go directly back to that fund. They do not. When they call the fire department, they come, you don't get a bill. You get an ambulance ride and you've got any kind of insurance at all,
right,
whatever they pay goes to the fire and ambulance fund. And that was established 20 some odd years ago in this town by Mr. Ackerstrom. And that fund is there to support the ambulance and fire and life safety. That's what that fund is for.
right. I really think that the fire truck, the 300 whatever, should be taken from taxpayers.
yeah.
Not from the ambulance. Well, they aren't around.
Because the people that worked for the town was smart enough and knew how to write a questionnaire, if you would, and got us $500,000
Right.
for nothing.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, they gotta understand that grant, it's like,
Yeah.
I've heard it 100 times.
And I think this
We got a new
process.
dump truck, but we didn't vote the budget. How'd you get a new dump truck? Oh, we got it on the
That's
grant.
nice. Yeah.
Okay, so here's my other question. If we put it on the ballot and we finance it, is that just the only time it has to be on that? Is we're gonna finance 350,000?
And then-
Then it doesn't have to go on each year. If it's a bond, it has to be voted on each year,
Yeah.
correct? Or at least, no, it's.
so it depends how you write the article, if there's a non-appropriation clause and appropriation clause. So one of those, it says it has to go every year, and the other one, it doesn't, and it just goes into you just have to put it in
Okay,
your.
that's what I want.
I would
I think
make
the
Well,
sure,
that's what I would.
The tanker goes
That's
on
what
every
I
year.
would propose. I would propose instead of
right,
taking it, we need this fund for the next ambulance.
Okay.
All right, and instead of having those funds taken out of the ambulance each year, my feeling would be is if the voters approve to raise and appropriate well, it would-
77.
whatever
Yeah.
for this new tanker, that we take it out of general versus out of the ambulance.
Yeah, you can only drink so much, I mean,
Right, because we're gonna over drain it and then
and the ambulance fund is what makes its own money.
that's exactly right. I think the ambulance should come out of this fund, the tanker should come out of our whatever
Pockets.
pockets. I don't know,
The truck, the fire truck.
fire truck.
Cause we're gonna have a 20.
Yeah. You understand what we're saying? All right, is that if we keep taking monies out of this ambulance, we're gonna cut off our nose to side our face a year or so down the road.
Yeah.
And my feeling is if we,
We're already using it for the tanker, right?
right, we already have one, we shouldn't have a second one.
And I think past history has kind of been used for both, but unfortunately, when that was established 20-something years ago, a fire truck was.
Oh, of course, it's a whole
I
different
mean,
ball.
that was the bottom bucket.
Yeah,
I think
we're gonna replace this fire truck.
We're gonna need another fire truck here.
But we're gonna take one offline that we're gonna sell.
But didn't when this account was first created and I'm not sure because I was really young. Wasn't the goal at that time is they saved the money and then used the money to purchase? And it was just in the last 10 or 15 years or so that we started moving to lease payments?
Well, we had to because again, fire truck.
Right,
ambulance was on
because
this,
I remember like the
$1,000.
ladder truck was $700,000 for.
This new fire truck, we got 800,000.
Right.
We got a $500,000.
Right.
Buying-
Trying to go.
Buying
yeah.
way more by
Right.
financing versus saving.
Buy, 75 grand, bought a pretty nice pickup truck, if it is, don't get your power windows.
That would be my feeling on it. I think that we should be
You're right. I'll
looking
do
at
that.
this and we should just finance it. And, then, but I want it written so we don't have to vote on it every year.
Right, I will work with legal on that.
Yeah,
So it's just about the whole non-appropriate
Yeah.
or appropriation.
all right,
Okay.
so that goes out.
And then
Any other questions?
Facility
Makes
stays,
sense.
right, on the truck. And help from your people in town.
Yep.
That $500,000 of this 800
Is it grant?
It's free money.
Yeah.
Free money.
We get like a flyer with numbers,
How
so that
about,
when the voters say, I can just go.
Yeah.
how about a,
Free money,
what am I looking for? A big banner? Yes, Ryan.
So just to kind of put it on the record and impress how important it is, I mean, the people in this room can help spread the word, most of us are taxpayers. At the NHMA conference, we were talking with these people that sit on the other side of these grants, basically they're the ones that hand us the money. This program is sunsetting, it's done in March. There won't be another opportunity for this money, that pot is gone. They're gonna reuse it for something else, which we may be able to take advantage of.
But we don't know what the other, something else.
We don't
is
know
yet.
what it'll be, or if we have qualifying vehicles, they're changing gears to more alternative fuel from what it sounds like. But they wouldn't elaborate much on that, or solar or gas.
So it's huge.
Well, this program started in California,
Yes.
it was California emissions.
So this is it, though.
Well, this is
that
get the
you've
whole
done
truck
is-
off the road.
These
All right.
impress on people how important it is.
All right.
Okay.
So that's,
No, I think it's a good idea, yeah.
I just think that's the
And
better.
luckily, we had somebody smart enough to read this.
All right.
Okay,
So with
That'll
that,
be our
then
approach.
I'll
Thank you.
do that.
Thank you.
thank you, Steve.
The only other thing is, it hasn't gone through their final steps yet, and it hasn't gone to you guys yet. I'm just highlighting that this is, if it's passed and voted on, is the fire department is bringing forward a capital reserve for their CIP for their Scott air packs and cylinders, which that warrant article would be 123,666 each year for 3 years, for a total of 371,000 that they need to tuck away to replace their gear. I know Deb wasn't prepared to talk about this because the planning board hasn't officially approved the CIP request yet, but we're kind of getting towards where I need to start all these warrant articles.
Well,
So that will be.
Yeah.
It's the only one you brought forward, correct?
Correct.
For the CIP. And how, oh, that's the only question is how are you expecting to fund that? Because that wasn't there.
Definitely have to sit down and discuss that. Because I've been kind of, I talked a little bit with Karen about that, when I first brought it forward. Because it is what is it, 120 a year?
123,
123, so we wouldn't end up, it'd probably totally take care of. It would totally defeat the ambulance. The thing is when this CIP is to end, our SCBA's are gonna be expired. Which means they can't get recertified anymore. Those are obviously our.
So you're saying, you're gonna ask for this in a separate warrant. And you're gonna be able to start, changing them out if it goes through, correct? Or you have to
Well,
wait?
we're gonna wait till that way, because when you buy a bulk of them, you get the lesser amount, lesser payment, lesser
yeah.
expense.
Yeah.
Plus you get extra bottles with them,
Oh, okay.
things like that. So yeah, we would say, okay, in 29 or whatever the year gonna be,
Then you're
we
gonna,
are purchasing these now.
Okay.
But it'll be something as if it starts going, as it goes through, then at that point, we can start working with the company to make sure that in 29,
Yeah.
or whatever year it's gonna be,
Yeah.
we'll be able to say, okay, we need those now, because
Yeah.
obviously our SMBs are gonna be expired by then.
Yeah. Donnie?
And once this goes, if it goes through, we'll be able to lower those numbers substantially to plan for the future. So we can still keep that,
Oh, so you're proposing to have this 123 each every year?
just for the next, what?
3 years.
And
Oh, and then you're
yeah,
thinking,
we can drop it to like.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's gonna cost them $371,000 to buy them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
We have another 15 years to plan for that moving forward, and we could drop that number.
Got it. Okay, drop it down
Yes.
for, okay,
Yes,
all right.
this doesn't happen.
Okay, all right, cool.
Steve did not have these numbers, so now Steve can kind of take out what he was thinking for the fire truck and plug in the 123,666 for 3 years. Steve, write that down.
You wanna borrow my piece of paper?
123,666 for 3 years, and he can let us know if if there's even remotely any, what that ambulance fund looks like with that, and then if that's
Oh, I
even
don't think you can.
possible, or if it has to be fully funded by taxation. So,
Create a capital reserve account.
yeah, but first see if there's gonna be any funds, in
There's not gonna
the
be any
ambulance,
funds in
and
that either.
if not,
It's a
then.
pretty large number.
Yeah. That's gonna have to be through, taxation, through voters, taxation, yeah. Cause when you're looking at these figures, you're talking 45,000, and now you're just changing it to 120, that's not that.
So do you wanna make the decision to just go through taxation? Do we want to fund this? Starting now?
Oh, I would put it on the ballot. It's not our decision, it's the voters' decision. And if you don't present it to the voters, then they can't make a decision.
Do you wanna make a recommendation or a motion that pending the planning board approval of the CIP, that
The planning board approved the CIP November 24th.
I thought you said there was 3 public hearings?
No,
Still need to have.
CIP is just one. The only one that's left is for the,
Is it,
for the zoning amendments.
okay. So then I guess you can, add that to my recommended list, then, the 123.
How long is this list gonna be? We're gonna be sitting in for that. They thought last year's voting was a lot.
I have a proposed.
Oh, that is a voting booth, so we
I
gotta
have
check
a
them off.
proposed list for you to
Okay.
come if you want to make this a separate one.
The ambulance fund will not be able to support that. By any means. So it would have to be a separate, how do you guys feel? The voters. Voters? Make the motion and put it forward to the voters.
You can just see in 28, we only have 150.
I know, that's why I,
That's-
yeah.
makes
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I just.
So when I called 911 and said I needed an ambulance for 83 Newtown Road, you said, did you pay your taxes? And how did you vote?
How did you vote?
That go on the
Yes.
ballot, or would it be just for the?
Taxes are paid at 83.
No, this would go on for
3
3
years.
years, yeah. We don't, that's the problem, if you, like with the lease things, they've gotta go on every year.
Mhm.
You know, and if it doesn't pass, we put it on, then we do put it on next year again. Well,
Alright,
that would be,
so if you're good with the list in front of you, I do have a motion for you to,
I've lost that.
second to the last.
Oh, no, I've changed, okay.
So I can make the motion to move the ballot, the slate of suggested CRS accounts as presented by the town administrator.
I'll second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now with that for the update, so for the warrant articles, as of now, without any petition warrant articles, we have 3 zoning articles.
It's either gonna be 3 or 4, it depends if we can combine the definitions of solar and building manufactured home. If we can do all the definitions on one warrant article, it'll be 3. If we have to split them, it'll be 2.
So 3 or 4 zoning is proposed. We do have the 3 union contracts for police, fire, and DPW, which is a total of 6, because then we have, if this fails, we have the right
Oh, yeah,
to
that's right.
call a special meeting.
Yeah.
So
And now we're at 10.
So that's 6. You have your one for the general fund. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 of your capital reserves.
28.
You have 1, 2, 3 for your ambulance, which is those lease payments.
31.
We have one new one to create, if you remember a while back, when we were the Concord Regional Solid Waste,
Mm-hmm,
part of that.
yeah,
All the towns part of that, coalition, they call it,
right,
put in money to buy a piece of property that was to be a landfill, and then that went away, and then they sold that property, and we got that chunk of money back. You guys had agreed that we would create a capital reserve to keep that money in for our future payments towards keeping, the landfill in compliance, which
Oh,
is forever.
the old dump.
The old,
Got it.
yeah, so that would be a new one, just allowing us to create that fund and put those funds that we've already received into that.
Yeah.
That's one. We do have, an article to amend the veterans disability
Disability.
credit, this year. Due to changes in legislature.
Mhm.
And also, part of your packet, we had discussed previously creating a revolving fund for the police detail so that they can use those funds towards the cruisers. And I do have mock language of other, how that warrant article should look like and how other towns have created that warrant article. There's no money tied to that. That's just saying we're gonna create this account, and the money, the extra money from the special detail will go into that. And the library is putting forward an article. They haven't adopted this in the past, but it's basically for them to retain money received from its income generating equipment under RSA 202-A:11-A.
What equipment do they have?
Well, that would probably, if
So
you
that
went
would
in,
be library fines, it would be use of the copier, printer, So it just allows them to keep that money instead of having to give it back.
put it in the general fund.
Yeah, so that is all of them that I foresee right
So
now.
I think I have 36, I think. Wow.
Get ready, you're gonna have finals in your ISs. You can't do that to this town. Been telling you that for 20 years, and you finally
That's what
got to
happens
listen
in
to years.
What is SB?
The more you put up there, the less they read. And the simple answer is they say no. Want to save them money, you think?
But the problem is, we have to keep doing business.
Yeah.
I understand that.
We're an SB2 town
Their
and
job to keep going, and it's their job to vote yes or no.
Again, they dial up that phone, and want a fire ambulance there, or police there, or a town truck to plow the road. If not today, we'll be by tomorrow.
So yes, if you wanna basically scratch out after taxation, because I know what you're doing.
yeah,
So
okay,
after taxation, if you scratch that out, then that can be that motion for that one.
that's for the 500,000.
Correct.
All right, I'll do a motion to move to the ballot, a warrant article to fund the purchase of a fire engine with $500,000 of funds to come from the Granite State Clean Fleet Diesel Program.
I'll second.
With remaining
With
payments.
remaining payments to be funded by taxation,
Correct.
period.
John, that was you, second. Thank you.
All in favor?
I'm
Aye.
completely in favor.
Okay, is that everything to do with the capital reserve?
Yeah, we kind of did.
And we kind of did the warrant article
We did the
discussion too.
work
Okay,
goal.
fund balance PowerPoint?
Yes, so I do have a
Big old
PowerPoint,
piggy on the wall.
a big piggy savings account. There's been a lot of questions about fund balance, also known as reserves, also known as unexpended fund balance. So I pulled together this lovely PowerPoint and I will share it as best as I can for those watching. And I'm just going to read my lovely PowerPoint for you guys. All right. So fund balance. In government accounting, fund balance is the difference between operating assets and liabilities resulting in a surplus or deficit. A common misconception is that fund balance is a cash account associated with or correlated to a government's bank account balance. But unlike a personal bank account, a general fund balance is not a cash account. It is a measure of equity between revenues and expenditures. This quote was from Catherine Heck, the government finance advisor for NHMA. And you also have this in your packets too. What fund balance means. The fund balance is basically the town or school, because the school also has their own fund balance. Net leftover money. It's in its main operating fund, often called the general fund. It's like a savings account that slowly builds up or goes down year after year after year after year, essentially since your town was created, depending on how the budget turns out. In short, a fund balance is created when a town or school district spends less or earns more than expected. Over time, these leftover amounts accumulate, becoming the financial cushion that supports stable budgeting and helps manage taxes. Why it matters in New Hampshire. The Department of Revenue, also known as DRA, looks at a town or school district's unassigned fund balance when setting the next year's tax rate. Local officials can choose to apply part of that balance to A, reduce property taxes, or keep it to help with future financial stability. Having too little fund balance can cause cash flow problems. Having too much might mean taxpayers are being overcharged. How it's created. The town votes on a budget. Each year, voters or the governing body approve a budget that estimates how much money will come in, mostly from property taxes plus state aid and fees, and how much will be spent for salary, supplies, maintenance, etc. Then the town collects money and spends money during the year. As the year goes on, actual revenues may come in higher than expected. For example, more permit fees, more motor vehicle fees, or higher interest earnings on savings accounts. Actual expenses may come in lower than budgeted. For example, unfilled staff positions, cheaper road salt, fewer repairs needed, grants used. At year end, revenues and expenses are compared. If revenues are less than expenses, the difference is a surplus. If expenses are more than revenues, it's a deficit. Surpluses add to the fund balance. Any surplus from that year gets added to whatever fund balance was already left over from prior years accumulating. Over time, these surpluses build up in the total fund balance. Deficits reduce the fund balance. If a year ends with a deficit, it comes out of fund balance, lowering. The town reports its fund balance after the annual audit. The town knows how much unassigned or unexpended fund balance it has. That's the available portion of leftover money. Example, total unassigned balance could be 800,000. This is an example, not what's real. These are all just examples for people. The select board then decides how much to use. The board decides how much of that fund balance to apply, spend to help lower the tax rate. Example, the board votes to apply 300,000 towards reducing taxes. The remaining 500, because as we've stated before, we had 800. Again, this is just an example. The remaining 500 stays in the fund balance as a retained balance, a savings cushion, or used to fund warrant articles that would have no tax impact. What applied versus retained means. The term applied fund balance, what it means, the portion used right away to lower the tax rate for the current year. The effect decreases taxes this year. Retained fund balance, the portion kept in reserves for future savings, for future use savings. The effect stabilizes future budgets and taxes. In short, when the DRA sets your tax rate, they apply your fund balance, which lowers this year's tax rate. Retained fund balance stays in savings to keep things stable in the future. The goal is to balance tax relief now with financial stability later. Slides here. Types of fund balance simplified. When accountants finish the year-end financial statements, the fund balance gets split into categories. Non-spendable, things that aren't cash, like prepaid items. Restricted, money that must be used for a specific purpose by law or grant. Committed/assigned, money set aside for specific future use, like a capital project. Unassigned or unexpended fund balance, the leftover amount that's available to use for tax relief, emergencies, or to keep in reserve. Examples of increased revenues not anticipated. Tax-related revenues. Higher than expected property tax collections. 1, if more residents pay on time or delinquent taxes are recovered, that adds to the available funds, which we have experienced that this year. Increase in sales tax receipts. A boost in local retail activity or a rate increase brings in extra money. This obviously doesn't apply to us. Franchise or excise tax surpluses, extra revenue from utilities, alcohol or fuel sales above projections, which doesn't necessarily pertain to us, but does add to the revenue we do receive from the state.
Well, we do receive revenues from utilities.
Yes. Intergovernmental revenues, state or federal grants. Unanticipated grant awards or reimbursements for eligible expenses like FEMA reimbursements, state aid, all of the wonderful grants we've gotten this year. Revenue sharing or state aid increases. If the state distributes more funds than expected, the general fund benefits. Service charges and fees, again, we're still talking about our increased revenue that we didn't anticipate. Service charges are higher building permits or inspection fees. Growth or construction activity can generate more than budgeted revenues. Recreation programs or fees or facility rentals, more participation or usage than expected adds to revenue. Ambulance or public safety service charges. If the town operates fee-based emergency services, that increased billing can help. And then more revenue that is unanticipated throughout the year, adding to your unexpected fund balance is miscellaneous and one-time revenues, sale of town-owned property or equipment, proceeds. Proceeds go into the general fund unless restricted, interest earnings, rising interest rates or higher cash balances can boost investment income, insurance recoveries, payments for damage or loss that exceed replacement costs, donations or private grants, contributions for general use add to available funds. Fund balance or reversions transferred from other funds, if another fund or capital project returns unused money to the general fund, unspent encumbrances or lapsed appropriations. And when departments spend less than budgeted, the remaining balance carries forward. And here you have an example of the town of Maple Hollow. So their year one, they had a starting point, so they had budgeted revenues of 10 million. They had budgeted expenses of 10 million. And their starting fund balance was 0. At the end of the year, their actual revenues came in at 10,100,000. Their actual expenses were 9,900,000, a little lower. So their surplus was the 10.1 minus the 9.9, giving them at the end of the year and $200,000. That 200 becomes the beginning fund balance for next year. Year two, build it up. Budget revenues for year two, we have 10.2 million. Our budgeted expenses are 10.2 million. We started the fund balance at 200,000. At the end of the year results, revenues come in 100,000 more than planned. Expenses come in 150 less than planned. Our new surplus is 250. Add that 200 from before, your new fund balance is now 450. And then year three, using some for taxes. The town decides to use 150 of that fund balance to reduce property taxes. That means when setting the tax rate, the town tells DRA that 150 of the fund balance will go towards lowering the tax rate. Now the town starts the year with available fund balance of the 450 minus the 150 to offset taxes. Now they have 300,000. End of year, small surplus again of 100,000. So the new total fund balance is 300 plus 1 equals 400. This is just a diagram basically showing how that fund balance can, in one situation, add up year to year and how we use it. What this shows, over several years, small annual surpluses build up the fund balance. Using some for tax relief lowers it, but it can build again if the town continues to manage money carefully. The unexpended or unassigned fund balance at any time is the part that's not already committed or restricted, basically the available cushion. Why the balance matters. If a town applies too much, the tax rate drops this year, but might jump up next year if there's no leftover money again. If the town retains too much, it may be overtaxing residents by not using enough of the surplus. That's why DRA recommends keeping between 5% and 17% of the total annual budget as a healthy retained fund balance. I won't go over this, but I have a slide just showing how you can affect your tax rate by if you did too much or too little, and how you can make a huge jump in your tax rate one year to another. And you don't want to have such a high jump in your tax rate. You want to be very ebb and flow, going up, pennies or, quarters and years that you have to, maybe this year it's gonna go, or next year, because you're adding so many articles, it goes up an extra $1 versus pennies and quarters and nickels, but. So it's a balancing act of how much to use to keep the rate at a steady ebb and flow.
I like the myth.
I put that in there on purpose.
I like the myth. So true.
Sorry. Almost done. What this shows, applying more fund balance gives instant tax relief, but it's hard to repeat the next year. Applying less keeps taxes steadier and prevents spikes, which you don't want. The DRA likes to see the town keep 5% to 17% of annual spending in fund balance, so they don't run into cash flow or credit issues. In plain English, think of the fund balance like your household savings. You can spend a bunch now and enjoy it in this year, lower taxes, or save some to avoid surprises and big swings in the tax rate in the future. The myth. Many people think that if our town ended the fiscal year with extra funds, it means we didn't budget correctly, but that's not true. A year-end surplus doesn't reflect poor planning, it reflects responsible financial management. Budgets are built on estimates and projections that must balance caution with flexibility. When revenues come in slightly higher than expected or expenses are lower due to savings, efficiency, or delayed projects, the result is a surplus, not a mistake. These funds strengthen our financial position, allow us to invest in future priorities, and protect the town from unexpected challenges. In short, ending the year with a surplus is a sign of sound stewardship and not bad budgeting. Thank you, and two quotes I found out there were, learning how municipal government operates turns frustration into understanding and opinion into impact. Educating yourself about municipal government isn't just civic engagement, it's an investment in the future of your community. Thank you very much for that very long-winded PowerPoint presentation on the fund balance, but I think it will be very helpful. I will put it on the
I should have
website.
got that 20 years ago.
Okay. Have me, so, didn't have me 20 years ago. Okay, and yeah, if anyone wants copies, I can make copies, you can put it on the website. Colleen can probably even put a link in the newsletter, maybe next month. If anyone wants to educate themselves on the fund balance.
Let's move on to the Heritage Commission. We have a student member appointment. All in favor? Aye. Okay, that one passed. Riley DeGange. Under other new business, cost up grant funding amendment.
Yes, we were just notified yesterday that so our COSAP grant was extended to September of 26, but our funding for that was going to run out about January-ish time. So I had asked for them if there was extra funds, could we, since they extended to September, I don't have the funds to fund the rest of the project, so they had excess funds where towns weren't using the funds. So they gave us an extra $52,669, so now we can fund the position until September instead of having to fund him out of our part-time budget. So that's great news. We got more grant funding.
Do I ask? Is that, what is that?
That's Richie Ryan.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I
Richie Ryan's position in the police department.
I thought I'd ask. All right.
Well, I didn't know what it was until she said I spoke to the chief.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I didn't, all right. Any other new business?
I just need a motion.
Oh, you need a motion.
That's your last motion.
A motion to amend the current FY 22, is it COSAP grant from the New Hampshire Department of Justice all these financials from $381,323.12 to $433,922.12 with a completion date of September 30th, 2026, and to give authority to Chief Ackerstrom to sign the amended grant agreement and all other associated documents.
So,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay. Any other new business?
Yes, I'll let Steve, Chief Anderson come up. That's in old business.
That's an old.
To, highlight.
So on Monday night, we swore in 2 new officers and promoted Lieutenant Evan Belenja to the rank of captain. So that's going well. Our newest officers are Sarah Walsh. She'll start the field training here at the police department, and we'll start in the academy in May. Then we also swore in part-time school resource officer Michael McFadden. So,
Do we have the schools, have they voted
So
to
they-
approve those monies for that?
so right now it hasn't been removed from the budget. It's in the 25-26 budget. So that's what
So
we're.
he knows that, obviously.
Yeah, and it's, he knows that at any time it could get cut, so it's, unfortunately the way it goes, so.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, nothing else for Steve.
Thank you.
Under old business, 2026 budget change. And I asked the budget committee to be able to bring this back to the select board. And the budget committee is asking to, increase the, health agencies, and to fund CASA for $500, which increases that, budget by $500. And I felt that it was for $500, it would be in our best interest to support the budget committee for the $500. And it just makes things cleaner when it comes to voting. Otherwise, it goes to the voters saying that it is supported by the budget committee, but not supported by the selectmen. And I think that that's a good cause. And so I'm asking for the board's support to add the $500 to that.
Why not support that, or I can't go to Christmas?
There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion, to agree with the budget committee to fund the health agency request from CASA at $500 for the 2026 budget.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any other old business?
The only thing that we did kind of skip on was how you would like to use the contingency funds. I do have a request from my office. We have not touched it. There is 20,000 in there.
Yeah.
I do have a request from my office to upgrade the camera system at Town Hall. The
Camera system.
camera system at Town Hall.
Yep.
To upgrade the security system at Town Hall after recent review and consultation with government standards, it has been determined that our current camera equipment and the video storage system are no longer compliant with regulations, with the required regulations, and do not meet the necessary security standards. Upgrading the security cameras and the associated video recording and storage system will significantly enhance our ability to monitor and protect Town Hall and ensure the safety of employees, residents, and visitors. Also, police do come and try their best to look at the camera footage, but it's so inadequate, and the timestamp isn't even right, so you have to try to guess how far advanced the hours really are, and it's just so counterproductive for their staff to sit in there and do,
How much is that?
the total request to upgrade that is $7,000. That I would ask that you use that out of the contingency fund. The other thing that recently, if you want to vote on that separately, or if you agree or disagree, no, I'm just gonna keep going.
No, keep
Another
going.
request. We also, with our new IT vendor, and kind of still working through all the kinks. They gave us a rundown of all of the computers that we have between fire departments, town hall, police, DPW, and the library. And we have quite a few computers and or surfaces and or laptops that are end of life. And end of life is typically 5 to 6 years, and then they start, not working, then you need to be
Then
replaced.
it costs more money to repair, well, they don't repair.
So we have, unfortunately, we have 7 that need to be replaced in the fire department. One in DPW, but he has the funds in his budget, so he's going to replace that out of his current budget. I have 2 at town hall that need to be replaced. And 1 at the library. I've asked for them if they have the funds to purchase the replacement. They said they didn't budget for it, so it will come a question whether you want to push them to budget for it next year or find the money, or we just replace it. And then I have the police department have funds in their budget to take care of theirs this year. So and they had a total of 7, and between the 7, there was some that only the hard drive needed to be replaced. And then I think 4 desktops were being replaced. So if we were to go ahead and fund the 7 at the fire department, the 2 at town hall, and if you wanted to fund the library, that's a total of 13,000. The other thing is PD does have excess funds in their budget this year due to the mass amount of vacancies in their budget, so we could borrow some money from them as well. Steve and I already discussed this, if he was okay with taking, the excess that he has this year to fund that as well, or we could use the contingency fund again.
I
if
think
we
we should
don't
use
use
the
it.
contingency fund, that's what it's there for, because that cannot roll over, that's gone again, that's gone at the end of the year.
Right.
And I think that was the whole purpose with creating the contingency fund. And let's be real, I mean, we're in a default budget and we've got to skimp and save it, but you still need computers, you still need all of those things.
Yes, and this would also,
We don't go on the library. Let them buy their own. And the other ones, I say use the contingency fund, I agree with you.
and totally when it comes to the cameras, because obviously some of the issues that we've had this summer in the past few months, we need good camera systems.
and it is also my understanding that if we were to move to the mill, those would be able to be.
Oh, that was gonna
come
be my
here.
question, we can bring
We
that up.
could, and we could bring the system and or depending on what you did with town hall, you could just leave them there and you still want security if that still retains a town used building as well.
Okay.
And then the only other thing that has kind of come through my office is, and it maybe it's not a contingency fund, or maybe you say, maybe we just fund it through the capital reserve, is the fire department. It is asking to consider dehumidifiers for the garage. And that quote came in at 11,300. Which that you could use the building facilities to fund if.
The dehumidifiers is because of washing vehicles inside.
Pull that and just give him like yesterday with the snow. Every time
The
the back
vehicles
trucks-
coming in with snow on them and stuff.
So,
So there's not anything that runs 24/7. Or you're just gonna turn them on and continually run them?
I think it would be just, most dehumidifiers work like based on what, you can set them at a certain level.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so when like even this morning when I get in, all the front bay windows.
Are all just
fogged
because
over,
it's.
because it's just the moisture built up in there. Now, what I try to have the guys do right now is, they'll squeegee the floors,
Yeah,
obviously. And
you do what you can do to get rid of the
Yeah, so we do
moisture,
as
and
much
then
as we
it's just
can.
the dry.
Well, we have a big industrial fan that will blow underneath the apparatus,
Yeah.
but it's still building up, and I think maybe and hopefully that would also help mitigate some of the freight issues we've been having in the past.
Yeah.
Because they sit there
Of
and
course,
with the wet concrete underneath them.
Yeah.
And
it
it
makes
just,
sense. And how much was of those quotes?
So that was 11,300, but if you went with the all of the computers and the camera, that basically wipes out the 20,000, and then her 11.3, I would recommend that you take that out of the municipal facilities, if that's something you wanna move forward with this year or next year. or-
If you had dehumidifiers, it lessens the chance of rust also, on anything.
I would think so, you agree, Sean?
And mold, that kind of
I
thing.
agree.
Yeah, yeah. I would go with your recommendation.
Okay, and, the only quote that I received was from Home Energy Products, and they said because they love the fire department, they are giving us a discount. Which is greatly appreciated.
All right, so we'll just make a motion to, fund,
As presented.
as presented. There you go. Thank you.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Keep this going and we'll just.
And instead of having them come back, or do you approve them moving forward the dehumidifier project with funds to come from the municipal facilities? Okay, thank you. And that doesn't, I mean, that can happen whenever you guys have the time.
Probably sooner versus later, seeing we have snow. Okay, do we have any other old business?
I do not.
That was a good answer.
Business. We have a lot of non.
But we have non-public.
Yes.
Okay, so any public comments? Not everybody's gonna leave, no, like. So our next meeting is Wednesday, December 17th at 6 o'clock. And we are moving into non-public on 91-8:3, Roman numeral 2, letter. All of them, okay, all of them,
Yeah. it's fine.
roll call.
It is nice, man. Everybody.
Yeah.
Baseball. If you've ever worked outside in the winter, baseball, that don't protect right back to you.
I have to be in Belmont.